I didn't know the real estate. I knew everybody. I guess here's one piece of advice. Like, that's for sure, especially if you're starting out. Tell everybody. Like, tell everybody that you're looking to buy real estate. Everybody makes mistakes. And you get a better reputation because you solved something that you messed up. It is the number one core value of my company is reputation. But the world would be a much better place with more self-confidence. The biggest lesson that I learned in my entire life, as far as like reading a book and seeing it come to fruition.
This is the Better Life Podcast with Brandon Turner and Mr.
Cam Cathcart.
What's up, Cam?
What's up, man? How you doing?
You know, I'm excited for breakfast for dinner, which I'm going to go do as soon as we're done recording this introduction.
Oh, yes.
In fact, our guest today, Mr. Tarl Yarber, his wife is at my house right now with my wife, and they are cooking breakfast for dinner. So we're going to get done with this intro real quick, and I'm going to leave you and go home and eat breakfast for dinner.
Love it. Waffles? Pancakes?
I think they're doing an apple pancake, which is like a Dutch pancake, which is like a pan pancake that you cook in the oven, but with apple on the bottom and a little syrup on top. It's healthy because it's apple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course it is. Sounds right.
Speaking of healthy and awesome, today's guest is Tarl Yarber.
Very healthy.
Tarl is a good friend of ours. We've both known him for many years, and I'm excited to bring him on this podcast. It's been needed for a long time. In fact, the REI Summit, which many of you were at, it's the big real estate investing summit that we held in Denver just back in the spring 2024. Tarl's company, Fixated Events, is the one that ran that. They are they have an event company. I go to Tarl whenever I need events run. He did the last few. He's done all of our events at Better Life. He also has his own event called Limitless Expo with Ken McElroy, if you recognize that name, ABCs of Real Estate Investing, advisor to Robert Kiyosaki. That event is coming up, so you guys should all go to that, limitlessexpo.com. And I'll be speaking there, so I can hang out with a bunch of you.
Keynote, right?
I'm a keynote. I'm the keynote. You'll hear about that on the show. The keynote of that event. And anyway, I want to get to today's show. But before we do, let's get to today's show sponsor. This week, one of our show sponsors, we have one later in the episode, but is simply the Better Life Tribe. The Better Life Tribe is a real estate investing mastermind that I run. 100% of profits go directly to charity, but we hold you accountable to habits and goals. It is the coolest thing. We've got over 1,300 members, probably more when this episode airs. And I would love to have you look into it. So if you are an active real estate investor or you are trying to be a real estate investor, go to abetterlife.com and check out what we're doing. We're going to help you buy more real estate, scale your empire, slow down, build a better life together. So check it out, abetterlife.com. With that said, let's get into today's show. All right, big thanks to our sponsors always. Now it's time to bring in Tarl. So this episode, so many good things.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Tarl's incredible.
Yeah, his story of like literally like not rags to riches, moldy car.
Yeah, moldy car to riches.
Yeah.
But he's flipped 650 houses, which is insane. I don't know anybody that's done that many houses.
Yeah, we talk a lot about wholesaling. Is that a good way to start? We talk about designing your business around your life, not the other way around, which is one of the most powerful like parts of a podcast I've recorded in a long time. Absolutely love that. We talk about, I love to talk about surviving the dip, right? Like if you're listening to this right now and you're like, man, real estate's harder than I thought and I'm struggling and I'm not seeing a lot of progress, I want to give up. You're going to love this episode.
This guy gave up 3 times, I think.
Yeah, multiple times. Yeah, you're going to hear about all that and more. So I think without further ado,
let's bring him in.
Tarl Yarber, welcome to the Better Life Podcast.
What's going on?
What's up, man?
Cameron. Hey, how are you?
What's up? How are
Nice to
you?
see you. Yes.
And it's been great getting to know you.
Oh, that's so sweet. Right?
You're such a liar, Cam. All right, so Tarl, I know you as the house flipper. I know that you flipped a lot of houses, 650 houses at this point. I know you like ran this massive meetup up in Seattle. That's where I first met you like a decade ago.
Yep.
I know you as one of my closest friends who we spent a lot of time in each other's nether regions while rolling jujitsu.
You're the godfather of my son.
Yeah, I'm the godfather of your son. I know you as the co-founder of the Limitless Expo, which is one of my favorite real estate conferences. Not even real estate, just finance, wealth, successful money-making conferences in the world. I've been to it multiple times. Always a good time. I'm excited for this year because I'm keynoting. Am I keynoting? Or am I just...
What is a keynote, Brandon? Like,
it's what you say to somebody like me to make us come and show up.
It's absolutely a keynote on one of the stages.
The keynote. I always thought the keynote was like, there's only one keynote.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah, but lately every conference has like 4 keynotes.
Yeah, he's definitely a very special person at the event, for sure.
A little man on a big adventure.
Yeah.
You're founder of Fixated Real Estate, founder of Fixated Events, a husband of one, a father of one, amazing family, and an amazing family man. But take us back before all that, Tarl. Before all of that, who was Tarl Yarber?
Like how far back?
As far as you're willing to go.
Right. So the business or personal?
Personal. Back. This is a Better Life podcast, not the Better Business podcast.
Oh man,
I don't care about business.
What is life without business? No, I'm joking. So I don't know, dude. Like I grew up in I was born and raised in Rancho Cordova, California, and so I grew up there, and we
super
grew
rich.
Absolutely not. I'd like to say like kind of the joke, not actually truth, is that we were upper lower class, like, and so we fluctuated between like low middle class to upper low class most of my life, right? Growing up as a kid, and my parents still fluctuate there too, still to this day. But I also think that was like a big motivation for me I'm also the youngest out of three. And just seeing like
you have siblings? How have we never talked about this?
I didn't know that either.
Feels this, I know, right? Yeah. Our buddy Nate,
Yeah.
is just like, he's known me for a long time too. He's just like, I still cannot believe you actually have brothers and sisters. I'm like,
or
yeah.
parents or anything.
Or parents, yeah.
Yeah, it's like when you're a kid, your teacher at school like lives at school, and you can't imagine them a life outside of school. I can't imagine a life outside of real estate for you.
I have a lot of life outside of real estate, as you know. But no, yeah. I mean, like we grew up. We have from age 0 to 17. Actually, no, sorry. From age 1 to 17. For 17 years, from age 1 to 18, I lived in a 1,000 square foot townhome with 5 people, right? And until my sister moved out and my brother moved out, then I moved out. And so 1 bathroom, that kind of thing. Shared a bedroom with my brother until my sister moved out when she got married, and then always rented. So households always rented. My parents bought their first house 5 years ago. And roughly 5 years ago, maybe a little bit less. And so I think part of that, looking back on that, growing up that way, and just like seeing other people in my life and my family and everything growing up, nobody in my family like made a lot of money. Nobody was successful. But then I got introduced to a book at age 17 called Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? And I always listened to this.
Never heard of it.
All right, Robert Kiyosaki, who's going to be at Limitless, by the way.
He's the keynote.
Oh, he's not the keynote. No, I'm the
yeah, that might be. You have to fight over it.
Last year, by the way, for those who don't know, if you've listened to the episode of this podcast where I interviewed Robert Kiyosaki, that was actually at Limitless.
Live at Limitless.
And Tarl made that happen.
We will definitely have another podcast stage there, and you might have another chance at interviewing him again.
I could do a better job than last time. People like that episode, but man, that was a hard episode. It was so hard to hear in that room.
Yeah. We have a better setup this year for sure, but like it'll be good.
All right, it was fun.
Yeah, read that book, and that like I was going to be believe it or not, I was going to be a mechanical engineer. That's what I wanted to be, was an engineer. Going through high school and stuff like that. And actually, if I would have graduated high school in my junior year, I would have done that, right? Because my senior year was a complete waste of time and stuff. But reading that book shifted my entire mentality. I've never even, ever in my entire life thought that other people thought about money differently. Like I never, just having that perspective was such a huge thing. And like it shattered my entire like perspective on everything. I didn't want to be poor, right? I didn't want to be broke, right? So
17 is pretty young to get into Rich Dad Poor Dad too.
So I remember exactly where I was, right? I was in Sacramento, so I was on the Highway 50. I was on Sunrise Boulevard, if you guys know Sacramento, Rancho Cordova, getting onto Highway 50 to go towards downtown Sacramento, and I was listening to a radio show, and the radio show brought up Rich Dad Poor Dad, and the host, I liked him a lot, like as far as listening to him, was explaining like how the money, thinking differently about rich versus poor and what that book's about. And I'm like, that sounds so interesting. And then I went to Barnes & Noble that day and bought the book. Yeah. And read it. And I'm like, this is revolutionary. Like, how come nobody? And I try to get everybody I know to read it. There's actually there's a sentence in that book that stuck with me my entire life, which was like, if you can't change the people around you, then change the people around you. And
oh, dude, that's good.
Yeah.
I've never heard that. Or at least I don't remember reading it. But
yeah, that's in there. And
that's so good.
And I also remember like, he brings up like, because a lot of it had to do with like you're trying to get your family or friends or whatever to like change, but they're also the hardest people to affect any change on. And I tried so hard, like you're talking age 17 till mid 20s or whatever, right? At that time period, trying to get everybody around me, family, friends, whatever, my parents, I gave everybody the book. Like I made it like a crusade because I even got into like financial stuff because of that. But and yet like nobody did it.
Yeah.
Right? And it took a long time for me to like accept that I just need to like be more just be me and do my thing, and then maybe they'll come around, right, in some capacity. And I don't remember who said it. I think it's actually a false quote when I'm going to say this, but like somebody said this, but some people say Abraham Lincoln may have said it or something, but I couldn't figure that out and look that up correctly. But if you want to help the poor, then the best thing to do is to not become one of them, right? And that also it's like that same kind of concept. But anyways, that changed my life. That basically totally railroaded everything I was going to go do in my life because of that book. So,
have you heard that quote or that idea? Maybe it's not a quote, but the idea of like I think it is when the student is ready, the master appears.
Yeah,
I think that with books all the time.
Yeah.
Like it's like that book hits you at a point, you were ready. Like you were the student and you were ready. And all of a sudden the book appears, and then it's shocking is how many people in the world like there's like. They're never ready. They're never ready for Rich Dad Poor Dad. And I don't know what it like. Is it just luck, grace?
Yep.
Like what is it that made us all somehow encounter this idea of financial literacy and independence and enjoy it? It's I mean it's a blessing whether or not it's natural or like luck or whatever. But it's wild that most of the world just could not care less.
Yeah, well, it's also depends. Like, yeah, exactly. Like where you are in your life at that time, what you've heard, who's saying it to you, who recommends it, what. Yeah. Who do you respect him? Do you not respect him? Like all those things are super important. And we've all experienced that, like the three of us for sure. Like, the best example would be spouses, right? Like, so people would be like, oh, your spouse tells you something. And you're like, whatever. Yeah. And then your buddy who you respect or some other dude says the same thing. And they're like, oh man, did you hear that? That's a great idea, right? And your spouse is like, I totally do that all the time. Like, that's like the most relatable thing that everybody can hear, right? That's the same thing with mentors and mentees or whatever, books. And that's so forth.
Actually, I've told the story before on the podcast, but I'll say it again now. Is the guy who recommended Rich Dad Poor Dad for me was the biggest bully in school. So he was the guy that he just would pick on me, and he was a horrible human, and I just could not stand him. And then after high school, we both get Facebook at some point. He friends me on Facebook, and I'm like, this is just horrible human being. Like anyway, then one day he just sends me a private message, just hey, I saw you were looking into talking about real estate or something. Have you checked out Rich Dad Poor Dad?
Wow,
yeah, changed my life. So
awesome.
Yeah, again, why I took the advice from him that day, I don't know, but I'm like, well, if it worked for that guy,
if anybody.
Anyway, all right. So what came next? Did you read that? Let me ask. Did you read that as this is a real estate book?
Yeah.
Or did you read it another way and real estate came later?
Real estate was definitely an aspect of it, but I was like, I'm going to start a business. I'm going to be a business owner.
Yeah.
Like that was the big thing that I got out of that book, and real estate was for sure going to be an element. But I became obsessed with like anything Robert Kiyosaki was doing. Like he became my mentor that I never had or never met, like kind of a situation. But I didn't know what to do next. So like actually, to be honest with you, I was thinking like, all right, what am I going to go do? I know I'll go join the military. And so I'm 17, right? I graduated when I was 17, high school. And I was going to go straight in enlisted. And the purpose for that was like, all right, I'll go do that for 4 years. And then I'll go get my college degree just because I don't know what else to do at the time. But I'm going to do it in business, right? But I'm like, so I was still trying to figure out my life. But I knew that, hey, I wanted to go serve. That's what I wanted to go do. And I was going to go down that path. And so long story and all that stuff would happen there. But the short version of it was my dad then, who was prior enlisted, convinced me. He's just like, all right, if you're going to go enlist, right, this is the funny story version of it. He knew I really, really, really wanted a Z06 Corvette. And I wanted it before the age I was 25, right? So, and he's like, well, you want a Corvette, don't you? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, if you become an officer in the military instead, right, you're more likely to get a car loan to be able to get a Corvette. And he explained that he's also a car salesman. So he broke that down. And I'm like, okay, well, how do you become an officer? He's like, you got to go get your college degree. And you got to go do ROTC, right? So I then talked to my recruiter, talked to them a little bit, and I was like, all right, I'm not going to sign the enlistment paperwork. I'll go join ROTC and go to college. Like my dad said, so I can get a Corvette. Right? That was like literally my motivation. So I showed up on campus at California State University for ROTC, right? Like just as a walk-on, as a motivation. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm going to go to college now so I can get my degree, become an officer, get a Corvette, and I'm going to do business and start a business as soon as I'm done with that. And I'll still study real estate, or not real estate, but study business. Real estate was an element of it. I wasn't that interested in real estate. I was interested in being a business owner and entrepreneurship. And so I did that, and I became a college student. But I then, I always worked, right? Never had, I had a full-time job, full-time school, and then I was always reading books still, listening to Robert Kiyosaki. And then at age 20, so I'm almost going into my junior year, actually, of college at that time, Robert Kiyosaki was speaking at the the REI Summit. Sorry, not REI. That was what you just hosted, Brandon.
Yeah.
That's what we just hosted. Sorry, the Real Wealth Expo is what it was called. And this is 2005.
Was that
right?
Rich and Kathy's thing?
No.
Gotcha.
So not at all. No affiliation. This is before Rich and Kathy were even like Rich and Kathy. Becky. Cameron, I forgot you were in here, man. I was surprised for a second.
All right, fine. I'll start talking.
So who said that?
I'm just so enamored with your story.
So no. At age 20, right? I lived in Sacramento, right? And at age 20, so I'm 3 years in ROTC, or going into my third year, and in business, right? Taking this, it was so easy. College is a joke. Anyways, while going full-time school. And by then I'm like already kind of seeing my career path for military and what I was going to do with that. But then Robert Kiyosaki was a keynote speaker at the Real Wealth Expo, which was down in Los Angeles, right? 6-hour drive. My grandparents lived there. I was like, oh, and like this is where I first learned about like how expos and conferences really work, right? The ticket was only $99, right? Which like as a college student, like working full time at Sears too, right? Like $99 is a lot of money, right? VIP $200. I couldn't afford that crap. Like, so I bought the $99 one, right? And I drove down to LA. It's like a 2 or 3 day conference. It was a 3-day conference, if I remember correctly. Drove down to LA, stayed at my grandparents, and they lived outside of Burbank. They lived outside of Burbank. So a good 45-minute drive to get to Staples Center. And so I stayed with them, and then I would drive down. And then you walk into this thing. There's like 30,000 people there. Donald Trump was a keynote speaker too. And they this is before whatever. And they had Russell Simmons there, who's the creator of Def Jam Records and stuff. They had Tony Robbins there. They had every massive major speaker you can ever think of was there, and it was $99. Right?
What a steal.
So for those of you guys, spoiler alert: when you have like a list of A-list celebrities and the tickets $100, $200. They're spending millions of dollars for these speakers, right? They're not making it up in ticket sales, right? Mm-hmm. They're making it up because they're going to sell you something, right?
Yeah,
so
hard.
This was my first experience of a sell-a-thon, right? And as an events company today with Fixated Events, industry standard, if somebody's selling on your stage, you get 50% as the host of the event, right? So it's a 50-50 split. So if they're selling a $2,000 course, right, on stage, or a $10,000 course on stage, industry standard is a split 50-50 with the promoter, which is the host of the event, and the person selling from stage. The Real Wealth Expo. Was it the Real Wealth Expo? It sounds right. Yeah. It's hosted by the Learning Annex. They wouldn't let you speak on stage unless you had a product to sell. Like that was their
that's how they made their money.
Because that's how they made their money, right? So I didn't know that. I'm freaking 20 years old, right? I'm there for Kiyosaki. Kiyosaki doesn't sell from the stage. He doesn't even have a product, right? He sold his rights to his name to another company that created a product around that, but he's technically sold that, right? Mm-hmm. And somebody else does that. And so he's just teaching. And I'm like, Robert Kiyosaki's the best, like on stage. And then all of a sudden, like the speaker shows up, and his name is Marshall Silver, who's actually a really good buddy of mine now. But and he gets on stage. I've already heard Tony Robbins. I didn't buy his stuff. I saw a bunch of real estate speakers. Didn't buy any of their stuff. I didn't have any money, right? I wanted to, some of them, but I was like, because you're getting so caught up in this stuff. And I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden Marshall shows up on stage, like day 2. And my life's already changing. I'm freaking out, right? Like I'm so excited, right? And this guy gets up on stage, and he starts talking about like how to think like a millionaire, and like all subconscious reprogramming, and also it's all personal development stuff. And he's also, by the way, like a world famous hypnotist, like who started doing seminar sales instead, right? Yeah. Good dude, right? But he definitely is one of the best closers in the entire industry. He has a massive close rate on stage. And I was one of those days, that day. So he's like, he gets to his pitch, and I don't even know what it is yet, right? He's like, if you just basically like hypnotizing, like get to the back of the room, it's going to be worth it. And I just like stood up, and I like walked to the back of the room, and I had, I'm broke, right? But I had an American Express charge card, not credit card, charge card. And charge card, I had a $3,000 limit on it, but it had to be paid every month, right? Because it's a charge card. And so I'm like, I had no money on it. And I'm like, okay, the program was $14.95, right? Today, probably, I don't even know. I think he's charged $19.95 for the same program today. But look about Marshall. You can still buy his program. He's a great guy. But
Marshall Sims?
Marshall Silver.
Marshall
with a
Silver.
Y. SYLVER. But so I $14.95, put it on the card. I'm freaking the blank out. Can we cuss on this thing? I'm freaking
we'll beat that, but
out,
yeah,
right? Freaking out because I've never spent this. I've never even seen $1,400 in my freaking life. And I remember getting the cassettes,
Yep.
right? Because he's so cheap. He wanted to get rid of the cassettes instead of the CDs. Like, so he brought the cassettes. Anyways, I love Marshall. This is how he thinks. But and all the books and everything. And I go out to the hallway and I drop to my knees and I pull out paper and I just start writing I still have this notepad. I gotta go find it because I don't throw away notepads. I'm gonna be a millionaire. I'm gonna do this. I would just write, I'm buzzing, because I've never done anything. I'm at this point in my life, I'm the kid that balances his checkbook every morning, right? This is before you had online banking too, by the way, so you'd have to call in, right, for this stuff. Balance my checkbook every morning, never spend more than I made. I was so conservative because every penny counted for me, and I didn't want to be poor, so you got to save money, right? That's how I thought. And I never did anything risk taking like this financially, right? So this was a massive. Just buying the course changed my life. Not doing the course, buying the course changed my life, right? It made me all of a sudden want to take risks. So I buy that course, and then and I'm like, shit, how am I gonna pay this, right? So I had 30 days. I'm like, okay, I need to make $1,500 in 30 days. There was another docket, right, in a sub room, not main stage, sub room, that said how to make $10, how to turn $10 into $10,000 in 30 days or less. I'm like, let's go check out this thing, right? I'm not gonna say this lady's name because she's still around, but she wasn't selling a course. She's selling CDs, books, and stuff like that. It's $8.99. It was on wholesaling real estate.
$899.
$899. It was on wholesaling real estate, right? So I have a $3,000 limit, $1,500 in, right? What's another $900? I kid you guys not. Her entire presentation was an overhead projector with copies of checks, right? And she's just showing assignment fee checks as her overhead, showing how easy it is to print money with assigning real estate. Never even heard of freaking assigning contracts or anything. I still to this day have zero interest in real estate. So I just like making money from it. So I got into real estate because I bought a $1,500 course, $14.95 from Marshall. And to pay for it, because I had 30 days, I bought a $900 books and CDs on how to wholesale real estate to make 10 grand. Because obviously, if you take $10, spoiler, $10 is your earnest money deposit, because you only need $1 to make it legal. And then you turn that into assignment contract because you sell the contract. It's that easy in 2005, right? And then I left that, and I'm tripping out. So I've never done anything this risky, anything like that. And then as soon as I left that event, I'm at the Starbucks the next day for 10 hours listening to the CDs and books and things like that. And didn't leave out I got to make this money now.
Did you have a plan? Actually, I'm going to ask this question, but I don't want you to answer it yet. And then I want to get into wholesaling and all that because I want to get to the sponsor. But something did you have a plan for how are you going to pay that money? Because it was a charge card. It wasn't like a credit card you can pay a little bit each month.
The plan was to make $10,000 in 30 days.
You had to do that.
That was the plan.
So here's the thing. We're going to come back after this message. You're going to hear whether or not Tarl succeeded in that. But first, Tarl, one thing we do on the show a little different is we send all the ad profits from this show.
Tens of dollars.
No, it's a decent amount now. We've actually got, hey, by the way, for those listening, we are now going to start some ad sales that are going to hopefully drive in more revenue than what we were doing before, so we can give away even more money. So if you have a company and you want to advertise on this show, just reach out to me. I don't know how. Send me a DM on Instagram, I guess, and I don't know. Hit me up, Beardy Brandon. But we send the profits from the ads directly to a charity of the guest choosing. So, Tarl, where are we sending the money from this episode?
America's Mighty Warriors.
America's Mighty
Warriors.
Okay, what is American Mighty?
It's ran by Mama Lee. That is Mark Lee's mother. Mark Lee was the first Navy SEAL to be killed in Iraq. And his mom, Debbie Lee, founded that. I know firsthand from multiple friends of mine that have gone through that program for PTSD treatment. And it's the exact words is it works, right? So with what they do. And you met some of these people, whether you know it or not. But so yeah, that's what they do. Cool. And
why is that important to you?
Because I didn't end up joining the military. So leading into buying the program, doing all that kind of stuff, I had to pay it. Right, I was so freaked out about that all of a sudden school started dropping, other things started dropping because I was tripping out. And the only reason why I was getting into that, my reasonings for being in it all of a sudden changed. I got obsessed with I need to pay bills and make money. So and it led to me leaving ROTC. And there's always that back in my head in so many ways of just leaving that brother. I've always been searching for that. We had a massive like brotherhood camaraderie that we had there, and I've always had that void, right? Of like, I still to this day crave stuff like that, right? And I also know, I mean, I know so many veterans, and I'm still friends with so many veterans. I still to this day, or people that are even still active. So I think that's very important. And I think a lot of our troops, veterans, active duty, retired, whatever, just don't get the credit they deserve. And there's also, there's a back of my head guilt side of like not continuing on, because I definitely was on a pretty legit path that with all the cadre, with what they did with me. And I was, I don't want to brag, but I was definitely an absolute, like one of the absolute top cadets and stuff in it. But then all of a sudden I, said, hey, I'm going to leave.
I'm going to go make money instead.
Because I'm stressing out right now about this charge card, like basically. And that led me down. And there is circumstances of what happened during that time period that allowed me to actually leave without having to have any requirements to have to stay. So, but that's actually, part of it's guilt. So,
all right. Well, thanks for sharing that, man. We will send the money to America's Mighty Warriors. And with that, let's hear from today's show sponsor. This week, one of our show sponsors, the Better Life Tribe, is a real estate investing mastermind that I run. 100% of profits go directly to charity, but we hold you accountable to habits and goals. It is the coolest thing. We've got over 1,300 members, probably more when this episode airs. And I would love to have you look into it. So if you are an active real estate investor, or you are trying to be a real estate investor, go to abetterlife.com and check out what we're doing. We're going to help you buy more real estate, scale your empire, slow down, build a better life together. So check it out, abetterlife.com. With that said, let's get into today's show. All right, Tarl, back to your story. Did you turn $10 into, was it 10,000?
$10,000.
Did you turn $10 into 10,000 in 30 days?
Absolutely not.
Oh. Did you make your money back?
I was hoping you actually were to say yes. I'm so sad. Okay. It could have been a great story. It's like, and I did it. I paid off the charge card and I retired.
Apparently it's not that easy. So
shocking.
Did you make your $2,300 bucks back?
No.
I
did eventually, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've done real estate?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Okay. Eventually. All right. So what happened during that 30 days? I mean, what happened?
Okay. So basically, like, you open up the program, they're like, well, how are you going to find these off-market deals, right? First off, I need to learn everything. And you know this from, what's your name again? Cameron?
Cameron.
You learned this from wholesaling, that like you need to learn everything about real estate, right? And it's the most common thing people say to get into, because it's like cost no money. It's so cheap. Anybody can do it.
It's easy to sell from stage.
Easy to sell from stage. But you need to know everything about a deal to be an effective wholesaler. You need to know how to find them, acquire them, but you also got to know how to evaluate them. What's the price you should be offering on these things? How do you look up ARV, and how do you actually figure out how to do comps, right? How do you estimate rehab to know if it's a good deal or not and work backwards, right? All this stuff that is the whole gambit, versus you can just buy flips from somebody and skip all the acquisition piece of it. It's like, oh, the price is $200,000, it's $200,000, right? No negotiation. Didn't have to source deal. Didn't have to do anything like that. You're assuming that you can that it's the right price because you look up ARV. That's really all you do. If you're buying rentals, you just got to look at rents and then measure that to your ROI on, I'm putting 20% down on a rental and it's already fixed up. And with 20% down, I'm getting 8% on my money. You don't need to know anything about real estate other than that. And you can go buy a rental. But that doesn't work that way with the signing contracts if you're going to go wholesale and find direct off market. So I had a lot to learn, right? When I did that.
Do you think wholesaling real estate is a good way for a newbie to start, or no?
I think it's a great way to learn a lot about real estate. I think it's a misled on how easy it is, because it's not. And so it's very, very easy to make it look easy. So that's for sure.
Well, why is it so hard?
Because you got to know it all, right? And at the end of the day, people. So what happened to me, and for this instance, I had no money, right? No money, right? Yet the program's go do direct marketing. You can't do direct marketing with no money, right?
Yeah.
And then the program was okay, well, if you don't have money to pay for mailers and bandit signs and all that stuff,
door knock or something,
then go door knock, right? And this is skip tracing was very, very hard to do back then. Believe it or not, it's so easy today, right?
And what's skip tracing for those who don't know?
All right, Google it. No, it's where you can basically find out somebody's phone number, address, whatever, all that kind of stuff by looking them up. That's just getting easier, and it's going to get easier and easier to do that. And so that didn't really that existed, but there's no I think we were still using AOL, right? So there was no online data stuff. There's foreclosure.com was like the only thing. But those people, literally, I would see them at the county recorders. You'd have all these people with these big bricks of laptops, and they're just like literally hand typing in data from the recorders that they would then use and have to go to a place and upload it to a data place that then would then upload that to foreclosure.com, right? So like it was all manual, right?
Yeah.
And I'd meet these people every day because I'd go to the recorders. So with no money, no nothing, whatever, then and no way to, I couldn't pay the $50 a month it took to get a foreclosure.com. I think it was 50 or 150 for foreclosures.com. Couldn't get that, right? So I didn't have any money. So I had to go to the county recorders, which the program said to do that, which I'm like, all right, at least I got that. And then go look up the notice of trustee sales, right? And notice of defaults, right? California has a notice of trustee sale. So they can foreclose within basically 120 days of getting a notice of default. So you have like 30, at this time, I don't know if it's changed since then. You get a 30-day notice of default, and then you basically get like 91 days trustee sale. So like before they foreclose. So 121 days, give or take. So we'd get an NOD, notice of default, and you just be all it would be, it was a list of names, right? That's it. It'd be a list of names in a binder. And there's only one binder. I don't know. I have no idea what it's like today, guys.
Yeah.
I have zero chance. This is almost 20 years ago. So it would be in a binder, 3-ring binder, and you look at the page for that day. And there might be like 5 names for the entire county, Sacramento, or there might be like 50 names, right? And you're like, who has the binder? And you're looking around to see like, hey, are you done with the binder? Right? Like, and you'd like get the binder from somebody else.
So did you have to go every single day?
I went every day. Yeah. And so
wow.
to figure out who's in it, because you're supposed to talk to people in distress, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's the program.
And then would you go door knock?
And then then you have to go. It's just a name, dude.
Yeah. So
like,
you got to skip trace.
There's no Google Maps, right? So like,
there's no address there. It's just the name.
No, just the name. So that means you then got to like take that name and go to the database that's there, and sometimes have to pull out microfiche, right? Microfiche is like tiny little plastic, right? And then you have to put that in a microfiche reader to find the original notice of the original deed of trust. You'll never find the note because notes aren't recorded typically. But you might find a deed of trust that references a note, right? And because the deed of trust is recorded, not the note typically. So it's sometimes hard to find the note. You can sometimes, but not always. And from the deed of trust, you can find the address, right? But you might not know how much they owe, right? Because it might not be. You have to dig into that. You could find the notice of default because that's issued, and then you can see what their arrears is, which is how much they haven't paid and what they owe to get caught up. And then you have to like you have to figure all this stuff out, right? And then I'd think I know what I'm doing. I didn't know shit, dude. Like I'm just writing stuff down. I'm like, okay, there's notice default. Go knock on those doors. Terrified, right? So,
and you're 20. Still
I'm 20 years old.
Yeah.
And so I had a 1991 Mazda MX-3, which I got for free because my car my car got stolen. Sorry. And then I didn't have a car and I still had to get to school and work. And so I got this car for free from a girl that I was trying to date. And because she was going to donate it. And the reason why she should donate it is that it had a leak in the sunroof. And it was just like for like over a year. And so the entire inside of the car was mold, right? Like 100%, like every inch of it was mold inside. And I was like, and the car didn't start. So I'm like, I knew cars because I had to fix it myself because we never had any money. My dad fixed cars a lot, so I learned how to fix cars. And it was the alternator. So I went and bought an alternator, changed it out. The car started up no problem after the battery and stuff. And I'm like, cool, now I just got a moldy car, rolled the windows down, drove that thing to my friend's house, and then bleached the crap out of the tire.
Breathing in the mold made you the way that you are to this day?
Yeah, I think so. So yeah.
Okay.
Explains so much.
I've been trying to put it together, and you just did.
I think it was Steve Silent, but that's funky. Never mind. But so I'm driving this, and the car didn't, had no AC, right? And then the electric window on the driver's side didn't. This is like the rags to riches, right? The electric window on the driver's side didn't work, and Sacramento gets to about 110, 115 in the summer. And so I had to my cheat. I couldn't afford to get a new switch for the electric motor. So, but I stuck a nail in it, and I would you just moved it in a certain way, the window would go down, right? So that's how I would roll the window down. And I worked at Sears, so I had Sears clothes, and so I got a Sears tie, Sears shoes, all the stuff. Known for the best dress clothes ever. And I'd wear that, and I'd go door knock. And by door knock, I mean like drive to the house, go around it a whole bunch of times in the car, find parking, walk up to the driveway, say, oh, they're not home, and then get back in my car and leave and never knock on the door, right? And there was one point I remember driving in the evening to a house because I got to go door knock. I got to make this work. And I'm so terrified because there are people home. There's like 2 cars in there. And I just like, and I don't go in. I just start bawling like a bitch. I mean, baby, sorry. In the car because I'm like freaking out. I'm so scared, but I'm also like broke and I'm already getting called by collections because I hadn't like paid the payment by then. And I'm just like losing my mind. So I had a friend, Gabe Bettis, who like, held my hand to go door knock as a friend a couple times, right? And stuff. And like, that was a big like push for me to do that. And eventually that led to me, like I did like 2 very small $5,000 deals. But what really actually like gave me more confidence was I went to a real estate investment association group, RIA, and Sacramento RIA. And there's a guy there, Dave, that was one of the hosts of it. And like, you're naive. I'm naive at the time, right? Like, I thought everybody was doing what I was doing. I thought everybody was like getting crazy with this thing. That wasn't true at all. Like, so he saw, looking now that I'm this guy that would look for me, right? Yeah. So at events, like I used to host the largest meetups in Seattle. Like I would look for the 20-year-old Tarl and be like, let's take him under our wing because he's out there doing it. Yeah. And he'll find us deals, right? And then we'll help him make some money and we'll train him a bit. Like we did that all the time.
It's such an interesting point. I want to camp on this for a second. So when you get into real estate, and this is probably any entrepreneurial thing at all, you assume everybody else is doing all the right things that are in the books.
Not at all.
The bar is so freaking low. Like nobody actually door knocks. Like I mean, like 1% of people who say they door knock. 1% of people who talk about direct mail marketing actually direct mail. You go to a meetup and there's 100 people. They're all newbies, let's say. Maybe one of them is ever going to take any action whatsoever.
That's what I mean. So in deal flow, it's such low hanging fruit because it's like, hey, go to a meetup, meet people, and then call them the next day and take them out to coffee. And then they do that and they get deals into it. And it's like mind blowing. It's like it's that simple. Yeah, it really is. And people just don't do it.
Yeah, no, it's networking. Yeah, right? And so like so Dave did that to me. And he took me like in, he brought me to his house and everything like that. And I'm like, he knew I was door knocking and like, I had an appointment and I'm like, it was my first appointment too. Like, and I'm like, whatever. And so I'm like, will you go with me? He's just like, yeah. And so, and he was a big time investor locally. So he went with me and I got to see him do that. Now the product told me how to talk to these people. Right. But I had no idea what the house was worth. I had no idea what was going on. I had zero anything. Right. And I watched this guy like talk through with him about how, because they had so much in arrears and defaults and all this stuff, that there was like, they were upside down already before the crash, right? This is before 2008 crash. So they were already upside down and stuff and they didn't have a way out. And this is before short sales became a real thing too, right? They existed, right? But it was kind of like, well, maybe nothing's really here, right? Yeah. And I'm left there going like, what just happened? Like, I have no idea. But like looking back on that, like that was like, now I took him on other stuff and we ended up doing like a small little deal and stuff, made $5,000 that went to like live, that didn't go back to paying any of the money. Like, so by then I had more credit card debt because I had to make like a pivotal moment in my life. I remember being at a gas station going like, I have no money for gas. Right. And by then I already dropped out of school too. I was like, I have cash advances on.
So you didn't start investing in real estate and become a millionaire?
No, not at all. Yeah. I had no money. I'd also reduced my hours dramatically at Sears because I'm telling everybody I'm a real estate investor. So I can't go back to Sears if I'm a real estate investor making all this money. But I had cash advances on my credit cards. And I went to the bank right after when I could barely pay. I remember making that decision, still like those crystal moments of like those horrible, like life-changing decisions or whatever. Going like, I can't buy gas out of this. And I don't have groceries. Like, I don't have a way to eat. And I'm like, but I got cash advances. And like that clicked. And I'm like, I went to the credit union that I banked at, pulled out what little credit cards I had. And I was like, I remember the teller just looking at me. And I'm like, cash advance. What's my max I can get? What's my max I can get? I think I got like $1,500 or whatever total. And I'm like, that's like $10 million today, right? And back then it was.
Best in Bitcoin.
I remember when I was like, man, if I could make $4,000 a month, I don't know what I'm going to do with the other 3 every month, but like, I'm going to be so rich. That means so much money.
Yeah, my original number was $3,000 a month.
Yeah,
I was like, I will never need more than $3,000 a month.
50 grand a year.
Yeah, like,
oh my god.
Be rolling in.
Now, what do you live on a month?
A
You
lot
said
more than that on the
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah. I remember like when I was a junior, like mechanical engineers start at 43 grand a year. That was actually a massive motivation for me at that time. So anyways, I do that knowing, but when I made that decision to pull the cash advances out, I very vividly made that decision too, knowing I'm not going to pay him back.
Yeah.
I'm like, I have to pull, I can't afford the payments. Right. So I'm like, this is a pivotal moment where I know I'm going to destroy my credit and like, but I have to. Right. And it was like a split like decision.
Yeah.
So anyways.
Wow. All right. I wanna bring up a book. One of my favorite kind of book concepts is called The Dip from Seth Godin.
Yeah, another book.
Right. In the book, the Dip, he talks about how like any entrepreneurial thing you get really excited, and your story perfectly illustrates this, right? It's like you're really excited and you go, oh yeah, woo, everything, you're optimistic and you just don't know what's ahead. And then you just go over this cliff of like, oh, this is really hard and I'm not making money. And then you're in the dip. And most business owners, people who start businesses, entrepreneurs, they give up in the dip. Like 90% probably of people give up in the dip. Yeah, the dip. And
It's a great book.
If you get through the dip, if you get down into it and you come out the other side, that's where success is found. And so most people quit. You didn't quit in the dip, obviously. We're going to get to the rest of your story in a minute. What advice do you have for people right now who are in the dip and they're like where you were, they're losing money, they're not making it, they're trying?
Unlike you, I can't say, here's the 3 things you need. I'm definitely like, no, there's probably like 87 other questions I want to ask before I give that advice, right? I'm a details guy. Spoiler alert.
You are a details guy.
I think a lot of it has to do with like what got you there to begin with, like what made you first start to go do it and what's that end goal of it, right? I had a fire under me for a lot of reasons, but it was brewing for a while. Like I was not going to be not successful, right? And you also add the elements of my entire financial life is going to be destroyed forever if I don't make this successful because I owe like a few $1,000s on credit cards and I have collectors calling me. And to me, that was like, I'm going to go to jail. That's how I felt, right? Like there's a debtor's jail, right? Still, like that's how I literally felt. So there was a massive motivation behind me. And for me at that time, right? And there's just a burning thing in me, like more than anything. So if you don't have that and you feel depleted, then like that happens to all of us. There's times where like in my dip, where I remember I was dating this girl at the time that we ended up dating for about 6 years. And I remember just like getting a call from a collector in front of her and me just like, and them talking about calling their attorneys. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, going to go to jail, right? Like, and freaking out as a 20-year-old. And I had just a breakdown, like a hardcore breakdown, like right in front of her, which is totally attractive, right? And and that was probably at that time one of my lowest moments during that time period, right? And it just felt like the whole world like is never going to work, never going to do anything. But then I was just like, all right, what else am I going to do? Right? Yeah. So and I just like kept going, right? But I knew it worked, right? I knew it would work. Right, that was the aspect. I knew I didn't have an alternative. I had no alternative. Right? Like, what else was I gonna do? So I guess like burn the boats was one thing.
Did you think about just getting a job? Like, I'm just gonna go get a job at?
No, I think by then, reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, being around all this stuff, I've went to Marshall's seminar. Like, 'cause I did pay for it, right? Yeah. I did also, let's forget that. Like, let's forget that. So I got all this personal development now about being a millionaire and mentality of it, right? During that time period, so I did that, right? Couldn't afford to get to it, so I borrowed money to get to the seminar, but like, and the hotel to stay, like as well. So I did all that, right? So I'm doing that. I'm also surrounded. I'm reading all the books, right? Reading all the stuff. So like, how do I dropped out of college already. Like, I'm like, how can I like not keep going forward was kind of the situation. I'm telling everybody I'm a real estate investor, right? Also, here's the funny part too. By this time too, I was starting to get licensed in all my to become a financial services professional too at the same time because I need to make money. So I'm going to go teach 40-year-olds how to manage their finances. Where I'm like, I got a lot to say about financial professionals. But anyways, so I'm already like telling everybody, right? So I kind of just told everybody all the time. It's like you, Cameron, when you did the fitness challenge and you're telling everybody you're going to get. That motivated you then to, right?
To do really well in it.
So you start telling everybody.
Well, the I am statements. I am a fitness,
fit and healthy and sexy.
But if you're in it, like full backstory is that like reevaluate sometimes like what you're actually on track for, and then surround yourself with other people that support you in some way. That's the biggest thing. Like there's absolute moments where I felt alone, but I had support from other people that said, like Gabe. Gabe was like, if I didn't have Gabe in my life, right, at that time, I would have definitely I wouldn't be here, basically.
A lot of people might be listening and going, well, how do I find those people in my life? So I want to take a minute, just a quick pause from your story to bring up the importance of events. I mean, we just talked about that with Ken on the webinar you just did. You and Ken run Limitless.
Ken McElroy.
Ken McElroy.
The keynote
one of the keynote speakers and the founder, co-founder of the Limitless Expo. So Limitless is a conference you've been running for a few years now.
Yeah, this is our third year.
Yeah, third year now. Again, Kiyosaki's there. I'm there. Nobody else matters. Whatever. Cam might show up once in a while, but
I mean, I'm showing up, but I haven't been asked to do anything.
Not if he knows.
No, he's a volunteer.
No, but this is the point I want to make here. Is like people are like, well, I don't know who those people are in my life.
Yeah.
You can literally pay less than $1,000, and by the way, you get 15% off if you use discount code Better Life. One word, Better Life. I think.
Yep.
You can save 15%, but it's less than $1,000. You can get in a room with like 1,000 or more people who are exactly that. They encourage you. They support you. So if you're one of those people in your life, you're just like, oh, I just don't know how to find those people in my life. It's like, there's a really easy way to do it. Just go to, and this is not even a paid ad at all. I just literally want, limitlessexpo.com. Tarl did not pay me anything to this, nor to speak at the event.
But one of the cool things too with Tarl and with you, but like the reason I'm here today, which I hate to give Tarl the credit for this, but is because of his events that he's put on.
Yeah.
Going to the Maui Mastermind that he put on in 2021.
That we put on.
That you guys put on.
Yeah, that me, Brandon.
All the emails
I showed up.
Tarl.
Yeah, Tarl organized that.
But
I'll take the credit.
Got to meet with incredible investors and have those people in my life.
Yeah, so that's just my little shameless plug for Tarl, so you don't have to shamelessly plug yourself. Is you guys should go to Limitless. It's awesome. Like I said, you can save 15% for using code Better Life. But I just want you there. I'm going to be there. I want to hang out with you there live in Dallas. At the coolest hotel in Dallas.
Gaylord Texan.
Yeah, I've been there before, the Gaylord Texan. It's an
cool
awesome hotel. Yeah, I'm bringing my kids. We're going to go to the water park. It's going to be amazing. Unless you're a weirdo, you should come and hang out with us.
And Brandon, Cameron will be attendee just like you. So
I will be I'll be a door holder. I'll be there. If I hold doors and stuff, can I get free ticket?
You have to talk to my staff. There's an application process for it. You gotta really think about that.
You work your volunteers too much. I couldn't.
Yeah, because they actually got to earn it. Yeah.
So I want to go back to your story a little bit, Tarl, and go from how did you go from? I mean, we could spend a lot of time on a lot of things in there.
Origin.
Get us to I can't even pull off and pay my bills. To I flipped 650 houses. Where did that? How did you get to the level where you could flip massive houses?
Social media.
Oh,
yeah. I started an Instagram page.
So teach me about how to invest in real estate.
Yes, that I bought real estate. No, anyways, joking. Absolutely. Yeah, 100% joking. Like in every way. My social media makes fun of that. So that's it. So fast. I'm not going to fast forward all the way to it, but I'll fast forward to the hero's journey where all of a sudden everything starts going better, right? So I guess here's one piece of advice, that's for sure, especially if you're starting out. Tell everybody, tell everybody that you're looking to buy real estate, that you're looking to do deals. And that's what I did. So I'll fast forward 6 months later, give or take. I have to relook at the timelines because I'm 21, right? By the time I actually got a good deal. So I did.
You're what, 63 today?
I will be 40 in October.
Ooh, 40 coming up here.
So this was really 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I thought you were joking when you said that.
Almost 20 years ago.
You're older than me.
There's a reason why I'm really good at this.
Wise.
Explains why I beat you in jiu-jitsu every time.
Yeah, right.
And now I know how much older you are than
when
me.
you reach my age.
Yeah.
So right around 6-ish months after, right? I'm 20, turning 21 at that time, or I just turned 21. Can't remember. But yeah, because it was in the summer when I bought it. Birthday's in October, so I was 21. And by then, I was actually, believe it or not, fully licensed to do financial services and all that stuff too, right? And I was making money at it, right?
You can be a financial advisor without being wealthy or being good at money.
Exactly. License, right? And then somebody to let you sell their stuff. But but I had a passion for it. I really did, right? I liked it way better than the real estate stuff because I was learning too. I was learning a ton. And so I really, really liked it. But that said, I'm at lunch with people at this office, and I'm telling them that I assign real estate. I do wholesaling like as well. Like that's my real business, as I'm lying to these people. Because it's all ego, right? I had an inferiority issue big time back then. But that said, like this guy that was also Brett, right, who was a actual an SVP with the business, said like he then perked up at lunch when I was talking about this, and he pulls me off the side later that day and says like, I might have something with that. And he explains to me that his fiance, she was divorced 3-4 years earlier, and now they're getting engaged, but she still had a property with her ex-husband that was in Smith River, California. It was 40 acres. It was already set up for building and all that kind of stuff. But they couldn't sell it because Smith River, California is in the middle of nowhere up in, it's beautiful up there, like in Northern California coast, right next to the Redwoods, like right in the Redwoods, actually above Crescent City and south of Brookings, Oregon. And so it's 40 acres. And so I'm like, of course, telling him I'm an expert at this, right? Like, knowledge-wise, I was for sure. Like as far as experience, knocking on doors, doing whatever. So he thought, who knows how many deals he thought I did, but I did 2 by then. And
2 deals done. You can have a course and a big social media following.
There's people out there that have.
And you can make a lot of money in selling a course on this.
There's people that do. Don't always listen to social media, ladies and gentlemen. So, all right. We go out to Smith River, right? And it's like 6 hours from Sacramento. And we look at it, we evaluate it, we go through the whole thing. They wanted 225. So at the end of the day, so we negotiated them down to 225. Everything said the place was worth almost 500, right? And so, but we didn't know what we didn't know and stuff like that. And so we tied up for 225 with like a 1-year closing. Right? Oh. And it took about, I'm sure I'll contradict a podcast I said at some point about the timeline, but somewhere between 4 and 6 months it took to actually like find a buyer for it. And this is 2006 now, right? So the market hadn't gotten crazy yet. It had gotten crazy in the upside way where everybody loved real estate. Your barista was your realtor. Like everybody had their license and stuff. So it was going crazy like that. And we found a buyer from somewhere like Kentucky, Kansas, whatever. And they wanted to like put horses on it, maybe get a vineyard, all that kind of stuff. And we found them was because like I marketed the crap out of this thing, right? So any online thing that had a place I could put it, I put it like, and we found from an online land thing, we found somebody hit us up. They flew out, did it, and we sold it to them for $325, right? And we did a double escrow. And so
which is?
Double escrow is where you start, you get a person sales agreement, which is our original one that we had. And instead of assigning it, you then set up another purchase and sales agreement with the end buyers, right? And you put both into escrow. So you basically close on your first one to buy it yourself. And for half a second, you own it while you then sell it to the other end users themselves. So you get 2 escrows at the same time.
And the downside of that, go ahead.
Well, wholesalers will use that so you don't have to show the buyer the assignment.
Because you're actually buying it. The downside, of course, you pay the transfer tax or whatever it's called.
Depending on the state, stuff like that.
And in California, do they make you have the funds for that half a second or at least the liquidity for that?
They do today. But pre-2008, the wild, wild west of all this stuff, none of that stuff. Like there's a lot of rules today that title escrow makes you do. Like you have to come with the funds then. But like back then, no.
But today there are lenders that what's the lender that does just double closing?
There's a bunch.
All of our lenders all do double close. There's double close insurance that you have to buy.
Yeah, there's all ways around it today. But like back then, you didn't need any of that stuff. They just did it.
So you made what, $100,000? I mean,
after closing costs, it was like 96 or whatever.
And what was going through your head then?
Dude, when the money hit the bank account.
Like
you're talking like it's funny too. Like so, I split this with the guy that brought it to me. We did 60-40 split, and so. You're talking like like $60,000 going to your bank account, right? And I remember opening up my checking account, and you see like $60,000 and $50 or whatever. Because I had like $50 in my bank account. Right then and there, I printed out that page. like I printed it out, and I was like,
"This is the most I'll ever have."
It was the most like the most uplifting, freeing. Weightlifting off my shoulders, like everything was just like I could fly. Like it was just insane. Like all that stress of all that time period, almost a year of my life, just every day being a grind, every day scared, every day whatever. Then all of a sudden, like you get that check, and I remember the day. Like by then, all my credit cards were accrued to like $13,000-14,000, which like. I mean, that's like today, that's like whatever, but then to me, like that was everything. And I remember calling up within a week, right? Sitting down at my desk and just like calling every credit card that I had and negotiating like a settlement and just like paying it all right there, paying it all right there. And then like, didn't have credit card debt again for like almost 10 years after that. And so I just did everything cash for a long time.
And was that was towards the end of your first year of doing it full time?
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the like great things about real estate that a lot of people don't understand is it really only takes one deal to change everything.
Yeah.
And it can
including your identity.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is 2006.
Yeah.
When was the next time I did a deal?
Ooh, I don't know.
2012.
2000
Early 2011.
Early 2011. So what did you do for those 4 years?
Real financial services.
So you made the 6 and you're like, now I can talk
like
talk.
Real estate. No. Then I was like, real estate sucks. Never doing this again. I hate it. And never did it. Like I was just, I never liked it. Like all the grind, everything about it.
You still don't like it.
I still don't like it. Which is actually why I'm good at it. But anyways, I went hardcore, drank the Kool-Aid in what we were doing for financial services with Primerica Financial Services. And I just went hardcore into that because I loved it. And that's what I did. I did that until I had a quarter life crisis around age 25 and moved to Seattle and then had to rediscover what I wanted to do with my life. And I reread Rich Dad Poor Dad at the end of 2010. And I was like, man, I was good at that real estate thing. Maybe I should look at it again. Right. And then that led me down a story that not relatable to anybody whatsoever for your podcast about how I got back into it.
Want to give us a high level?
Was that when you started buying for the fund or?
No, that was so as high level as I can go is that I started looking for businesses to work with, right? And in the end of 2010, and I found a company called Charter Home Alliance. They're based out of Scottsdale, Arizona, still to this day. And they were a Fannie Mae service area manager. So what a SAM contractor for Fannie Mae. The rules, what they did then is not what it is today with these guys, but they still do it. Actually, I just saw the owners like about a year ago, and Tom and Todd, and they were growing. So they were in Phoenix. They were builders that like got messed up from the building thing, but they immediately like the day after everything like went south in Phoenix, they got the contract to be a service area manager for Fannie Mae. Like it was just like kept them alive, right, kind of a thing. And then they did some stuff with Home Depot too for cabinet installs. So they're able to like stay alive while everything's collapsing in the building market. Tom built like 3,300 homes before the collapse and stuff. Wow. So, but they were looking for somebody to run their sales for growing the Fannie Mae stuff. So basically what a service area manager does for Fannie Mae at the time is that Fannie Mae would foreclose on houses, do all that stuff, which a lot was, especially by 2010 and 2010 to early 2011. And they would then assign those properties to a local real estate agent that was an approved Fannie Mae agent, right? And there's typically like everybody wanted to be a Fannie Mae agent because that meant you got a lot of listings, right? But it was a whole. This is not meant for this podcast to go into all the details of that stuff because this stuff doesn't exist today. So the way this works anymore.
Goodbye, Matt Buck.
Bye, Matt Buck.
Yeah, you've been on the podcast now, man.
There you go. Congrats, man. You should
really, we just wanted your dog to stay, but whatever.
Post about it.
Bye, Matt.
So essentially what happened is that like these realtors were in charge of choosing which SAM contractor got to do the construction on the property, right? And there was typically 3 to 5 SAM contractors per county for Fannie Mae. So you had to be approved, right? And then you got on the list and you got approved with the county depending on Fannie Mae, right? So Tom and Todd and those guys needed somebody that can convince these realtors to use them, right? So I worked out a revenue share with them, which is the best thing I did financially with those guys. Instead of like a commission, I was like, let's do revenue, right? And when they brought me on, they were doing about $300,000 a month in Phoenix, and by the time I left, we were doing $3 million a month. And I got revenue, right? So like it was a big.
And did you move down to Phoenix or?
No, I stayed in Seattle. So because I was never by then I'm psychologically unemployable. That's my like worked on for myself from 20. Now I'm 26 and a half, going to 27. And I'm like, I'm never going to work for somebody. So they wanted me to be I wanted to get into real estate. So this was like, okay, well, this gets me in the thick of REO, like the thick. So you're talking from end of 2010 till 2014, right? And that's that gap of, I don't know how much time you got, but like you're talking, this is the unrelatable time period of my life that just will not happen ever again, right? of going to where we bought so many deals and flipped so many deals and kept 0 deals, right? So you're talking close to 350-ish, maybe 400 deals during that time period.
Is that included in your 650 number? Or is the 650? No. Okay. Yeah.
And that's not, sorry, that's not what Tom taught. Sorry, forgive me.
Oh, I see. Okay.
This is 0 with them. Zero with them. Me and 2 other guys.
You partners, you started flipping like crazy.
We started flipping like crazy. So like I still worked with Charter as an independent. I was always an independent contractor, but I used our network. So this was the key. I'm flying around in 7 states, building networks of REO agents, contractors. These contractors were would work for Charter, right? And when I'd fly into a market, like I used to be in Florida every 2 weeks, right? So I'd be in Orlando and I'd go out there and meet all the REO agents. And then they had contractors that they preferred to work with, but couldn't work on the Fannie Mae property because it had to be approved. So I'd go find those contractors and make them a subcontractor of Charter so they can go work on the Fannie Mae property. So I recruited all the contractors in all the states. Like every state we were in, I recruited all of them. And then I also knew all the realtors. So out of me, Tom, Todd, and then eventually my partners at the time, Joe and Jay, I was the person that knew everybody. Like I didn't know the real estate. I knew everybody, right? So, you want to know who the best performing REO agents is on Tampa? Like they're buddies of mine, right? Florida, anywhere there, going up to DC, Chicago, Phoenix, Nevada, Seattle, Portland. Like I flew around. I was single, right? So I was like, had no kids. Everybody else had kids. I was the networker. I threw parties, like everything like that. Because that's how the realtors, you got to differentiate yourself from the other contractors that were just contractors. I'm like, I'll get you more business. And I'd bring out asset managers from the REO businesses and then introduce them, get them more business. Well, all we started doing in a separate business is we started buying REO ourselves, right? And that's a bigger, way more complicated story with how we did that. But we were getting a lot of off-market deals from that. And that was a separate business that me, Joe, and Jay were a part of. And we would just flip the heck out of them or wholesale them and do crazy. So the 3 of us did a ton. And then we had a massive falling out in February 2014. And I'm not going to get into that story, but
come on, I'm not going to tell us all about those guys.
But the 3 of us had a massive falling out that made me quit real estate again, right? And I'm like, I'm never doing real estate again. So this is when Grace and I, my wife, and I were dating. And when that day, I saw that in February 2014, you're talking hundreds of deals. We made, we were weighing our money, and like we had 0 rentals, by the way, at the end of this, like 0, which is a joke. But I'll never do real estate again, ever, right? Still had the Charter kind of contract by then. It was kind of like just cruising. I didn't really need to do much with that. But I was never going to flip, never going to do that again, right? So burnt out. So Grace comes over to my house at the time in Seattle. And this is when Joe and Jay and I just had a massive breakup. Like, and she finds me like sitting in my living room with a whole bunch of IKEA furniture. Cause I went to IKEA, like that morning we broke up, like our partnership. And I was like, 2 brothers for life. We're going to take over the world. And I just got like my heart ripped out. And so what my solution was go to IKEA and go shopping. And so I went to IKEA because I'd moved to this cool apartment on the beach. And like, believe it or not, Seattle has a beach, one beach called Alki. And I was like, all right, I'll just go buy some furniture. And I just like zombied in IKEA for a while, bought a bunch. And then Grace comes over at like 8 p.m. at night. She just sees me with like vodka and a whole bunch of furniture I'm building. And like, I'm like,
sounds like a good night.
Yeah, she's like, didn't say anything, just helped me build furniture. But for 6 months after that, I played video games and went and got my EMT. I was like, I'm going to become a firefighter. And because I was doing ski patrol at the time. And I was like, screw real estate. I'm going to become a firefighter. And I'll just invest my money and be a full-time firefighter and I'll be cool. And then August 2014, my buddy convinces me to help him figure out how to wholesale because he wanted to do that. He ended up being the best man at my wedding. So I start helping him. Like, I'm not doing it, right? But I'm helping him figure it out. And all of a sudden you get a taste of that. Like, you get a little taste again, right? Yeah. Like, so, and I'm like, all right, I'll do it again. And all of a sudden I'm like, we're partners in this. And I'm still not doing it. Then a fund, right, that was out of Arizona that we used to use for financing, right? Because you can buy all those deals yourself. Like we did a lot of JVs, like a ton of JVs back then. Or we would do gap funding and all this stuff and to do all those deals. Or we just like wholesale it immediately. But a fund out of Scottsdale who never really admittedly liked working with my partners, right? They only liked working with me. They reached out to me like, how come you aren't with Joe and Jay anymore? And I told them the story. They're like, you want to buy deals with us in Seattle? Like we loved working with you, right? And I'm like, I already got the taste again doing the wholesale, and I'm like, okay, we're getting these deals coming in, and I'm like, I guess I could help these guys buy some properties. So it was a $15 million fund, and we did a JV. So we did a 50-50 split. So they would take title, but I'd get 50. And then I just like, now I have access to 15 million to go buy real deals. Right?
Which is something we can talk about for a second here. It's actually an interesting strategy. I don't know if you still do that, where somebody else brings the money, like whether it's a $15 million fund or just some guy who has 150 grand lying around, and you go out and do the work and find the deal. And even if title stays in their name, as long as your paperwork's written up, right?
Yeah.
Like you can split profits however you decide.
We get a JV agreement, right? Like, so so the difference is that you can have an operating agreement in an entity that you guys both own and split 50-50. That's one way. I don't prefer to do it that way if I'm the JV guy. I prefer to take title and then do a JV agreement outside of an operating agreement and make it a business joint venture. So your business is joint venturing with my business. Title is not going to enforce that, but you could sue me and enforce it instead, right? So I prefer that way. But unless we're going to like get married and own a business together, there are other ways to do it too, for sure. But that's typically how I like to do it. But that said, like when you're doing any kind of scale or volume, like you're going to run out of money, right?
Yeah.
Doing a JV is like, you think about, we just did a webinar with Ken McElroy, and somebody asked him like, how come you're borrowing bank financing when you can raise so much money cash? And Ken's exact answer is like, because equity costs more than debt.
Yes.
And so, because you got to think, if you're doing a normal syndication, you're doing at least a 70-30 a lot of times. That means you're giving away 70% of the equity to get the down payment to get the financing from the bank, right?
And you likely have a pref at like 7 or 8% sometimes. So now not only am I paying the pref, by the way, for those who know, it's like that's the yield I'm paying to my investors, which is higher. Yeah, first. And then after that, we split it 70-30. I only get 30. So it's like I'm paying the bank the same amount I would pay to the bank, and then I'm also losing 70%. Yeah.
So doing a 50-50 with somebody with no pref is way cheaper.
Way better.
Yeah. So
there's some gurus out there, and it's probably a model I should have done. Maybe you should have done it. You should have done it. There's some gurus out there who will teach real estate and then tell their people, hey, I will partner with you. You bring the money, you find the deal, we'll split profits 50-50 because you're not going to do it anyway by yourself. I have all the expertise and the connections. Let's just pay 50-50. And some guys have got thousands of houses that way.
Yeah, I do private equity with people. So
it's
where I partner.
It's a nice win-win.
I guess my favorite deals, like to be honest with you. But even to this day, like I'll JV with people, and I'll sometimes partner if I need to if it's a bigger deal.
Yeah.
Right? But most of the time it's private money lending today. But that's what I'd focus on.
Yeah.
But that's. So I did that. I mean, we created a partnership, and I'm like, sweet. That only was about 7-8 months. And then by then I was like, oh, I'll just do this on my own. I'm still buddies with these guys, right? So they knew, they got we did a bunch of houses in almost a year period. And by the end of 2015, like fixated real estate's the most known thing there again in Seattle, Tacoma area. And I had all my stuff. I had an amazing, like imagine running like a Starbucks franchise. Like everything's there, everything's ready to go. That was me in 2014. Like, I mean, proven system, proven model, everything, because of all the stuff we did and messed up in that between 2011 and 2014. And I shut the doors and put a chain on it and just left it. Everything's still there. You just open up the doors again, right? And that's what happened when I got hooked up with the fund. I was like, oh, okay, let me dust off the cabinets and get back going. And then once the momentum was there, after talking to him, I'm like, hey, we're just gonna do this on our own now. And then it just never stopped after that. So, and then never.
Was it hard for you to get funds because you had that $15 million fund, or did you have good connection?
So because it's reputation. So so here's it. If there's any lesson to this at all for people for relatability, why did that group call me up? Right? It's because of my reputation with them previously, and that they really, really liked me way better than my partners. Right? And because I'm not gonna dog these guys, but reputation, right?
Yeah.
So it's the most important thing to me. It's also it is the number one core value of my company is reputation. But that's everything in this business.
Yeah.
And even if you mess up, how you fix it is more important. How you solving, everybody makes mistakes, and you get a better reputation because you solved something that you messed up or whatever, versus if everything's always perfect for you, right? People are still a little leery. Right?
Yeah.
But if you have a track record of messing up and you're open with it and you fix it, people love you more, right?
Yeah.
And that's why that was so easy to get those guys to partner with me, or why they reached out to me to partner with them. And then my reputation locally in Seattle grew dramatically. And it was easy to get funding after that too, just because of reputation as well. So that's
on that note, there's a tendency when you have an employee and then the last 2 weeks of work, or maybe, when I've been an employee, the last couple of weeks, it's a tendency to like really ease off and to like work as little as possible, try to call in some sick days, just be a general terrible employee because it's like, what, they can't fire me. I'm almost done. Or if you're a contractor at the end of a project, you already got paid, let's say, there's just no incentive to be good anymore. And most of the world operates that way. They just fall off at the end of things.
Yeah, you're pretty negative on people.
I know. Dude, I don't like people.
I don't feel that way.
I feel like there's so many people that just like, they just suck at the end of projects. And what I mean but the reason I bring that up is because that destroys reputation.
Who are we talking about?
Every contractor I've ever worked with ever in history of mankind.
Do we need to ask Cameron to leave the room? Yeah.
Everybody at the end sucks. And it destroys your reputation.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is, if you like in that, you could have destroyed the reputation along with those two guys that you were working with, right? But you maintain integrity throughout that whole thing, even though you never knew you were going to work with them again, with no idea that just because you're an integrous person, and it comes back to you.
Yeah, and the moral at the end of that story is that those two guys don't do any of this business, and everything we built up is gone, right? And I'm the only one still around. But I'm actually really good friends with one of them again. The other guy I don't really give a crap about, but this is why I don't tell the story, right? So the reason why I don't tell the story is my relatable story to most people is like, I was door knocking at 20 years old and all that stuff. Versus like, I've never had a first flip ever. Like we bought like 6 the first month, right? So it's like there's never a first flip ever. And you and I have talked about this, Brandon, where if there's the biggest lesson that I learned in my entire life, as far as like reading a book and seeing it come to fruition, was who you hang around, you become. Right. And the 5 people around you, I'll tell you how much you make, right? Sacramento, when I lived down there, even as a financial professional, like I still hung out with all my high school buddies and stuff, right? Not saying they're all great, amazing people, but I wanted to be a millionaire, but everybody I hung out with was making like $20 an hour, right? And or $15 an hour, depending on where they were. Yet I'd go and I'd only hang out a little bit with the people that were super producing in the business, but I'd hang out with all my friends at the bar and go play video games and stuff like that. And we'd all, because that's what we all did, right? When I moved to Seattle, like I had to make new friends. But by then I got into the industry. I hang out with the top producing real estate agents in the entire US, right? All the investors that I hung out with were funds, like back then that were getting created, or they were massive volume house flippers. Because it was the only way to make money back then, flipping houses, was to do volume, because you didn't know what a good deal was. Making $5,000 or $10,000 on a deal was actually like flipping was really good, actually. So I got some stories for you, young man. So because you're talking like everything was cheap and foreclosed, and you didn't know what a good deal was. Everyone's like, oh, if I ever saw a market like that again, I wish I got. No, you wouldn't. Most people run away from a burning building, not towards it, right? It was a fat burning building, right? During in 2009, 2010, 2011. You didn't know what a good deal was. Like, so you just had lots of them everywhere, right?
Yeah.
But and you couldn't get financing, right? So point being is everybody I was surrounded myself with in that industry were massive producers. I knew nobody that flipped one house, right? Yeah. Everybody I knew, they were like, oh, I flipped 200 this year, I did this, or they're buying, or they had 300 listings, or whatever, right?
How does somebody get into a room with guys like that instead of getting in a room with people that do one a year?
They go to Limitless Expo.
They go to Limitless. But I think that is.
But that's not a joke, by the way. Like, that's a serious thing, because last year, 86% of attendees last year were full-time investor, full-time owned their business, full-time self-employed, right? One of those 3 things, or they were accredited investor. And so if you're one of those few people that didn't fit one of those things, there's 14% of you, right? That's a fat room. Now, there's an inferiority issue that comes in that. There's a, what's that word? When you don't feel like, when you're not inferior.
Conscious?
Subconscious for sure.
Yeah.
What's imposter syndrome?
Sure,
right? There's an imposter syndrome.
Sure, man.
Right, we just watched that video. Poor guys. But there's an imposter syndrome thing that you have to get over with, right? Or whoever's listening that might be thinking that. Because if you're just a good, like, cool dude or whatever, or girl, whatever, like, everybody will hang out with you. It's cool. Like, it's all good, right? We're used to talking to new people. But
I think that is the relatable part of your story, where it's like, I put myself in the room with the right people. Because when I started, I went to the biggest meetup in St. Louis and was willing to do anything and everything that they told me to do, and put myself. Why did you raise your eyebrows like that?
What does it really take to win this real estate?
Yeah.
What did you
How
sell?
bad do you really want success?
So like, and I went and bought houses for, you guys know them, Sam and Lucas. I went and bought houses for them. And they saw that I was hungry and I was willing to do whatever it takes. And I did it for them for a while. And I was like, well, instead of buying houses with you guys, I can just go buy houses by myself, and ended up leaving. But that was the best time of my life. I got to learn so much. And it was just because I put myself in the right room.
Question for both of you guys can answer this one, maybe. So when you're going to a meetup like that, or you're going to any kind of a conference, whatever, and you're brand new, there's two kind of approaches you could take. There's like fake it till you make it, walk in there and act like you kind of own the place. And I don't mean that in an egotistical way, but just like be confident. Like I think, Tarl, you're really good at this. Just nobody's outside your like friend circle. You can walk up to anybody, like, and I know that you're that way. You can go to. I wouldn't dream of talking to Ken McElroy early on, like that. He would be so above me, and then you're just like, yeah, I had a call with Ken earlier. I'm like the godfather of real estate, like Ken McElroy.
He
like
spoke
you
at
just,
I met him because he was on one of my stages.
yeah. You just like became friends with Ken. Like I'm not good at that. So you're good at that. The other approach, though, is the more like the humble, like, hey, I don't know anything.
I messed that up, by the way. Jocko, I've met Jocko multiple times.
And were you more
like,
like
I'm business partner. I'm business partners with his business partner.
Yeah.
I still like am a fanboy around him, and I don't even think, I think he thinks I'm like halfway like not all there, because like I'm like, oh, whatever. Like, so that's the only person I've ever done the fanboy.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Is there is value to being the young, like you were saying, like I'm just gonna do whatever you tell me to do. Mm-hmm. I'm new, I'm eager, I'm young, versus I just own the place. How does a newbie approach high level people? Which approach?
We're gonna make this video one day about like how to approach like with this thing, like how to approach people at a conference, like that you like your mentors or idols.
Parody videos, by the way. Yeah, you can follow his Instagram and YouTube for that.
Assisted living evictions. Like, anyways, I can't wait to make that video. But like the whole concept would be like, this is how you like approach Brandon Turner at a conference, like. And every approach is like, except for like the only one that goes ding is you walk right on by. Like, everything, like that's it. Like,
but should you be confident, or should you be super humble and like, I don't deserve to even.
Here's the thing, like this is the truth.
Walk in your shadow.
Depending on like, I was the guy at 20 years old, super inferiority issue, massive, right? Mm-hmm. I wanted everybody to think I was successful, even though I couldn't pay my credit card bills. Like, and I would tell people I did deals all the time, right? Mm-hmm. Dude.
I do deals in all 50 states.
Yeah, seriously. Like,
I gotta love those emails I get.
Here's what's like, you're in your fish. I was in my fishbowl. I don't know. Like, this is what I thought nobody could tell that I'm fake, right? That's how I felt back then. Dude, I've met plenty of people like me back then. I could tell a mile away you've done anything. Like,
it's hard to hide.
And we're being nice not to like call you out, right? Like, I do call people out, but it's way, 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 way more important and more just to be you. Right. Yeah. And be like scars and all. Right. My life completely changed when I read a book called The 5 Wishes by Gay Hendricks. And that book, the premise of that book, I read it when I was 25. The premise of this book is that like, if I came up to you right now, Cameron, and like right now, let's pretend for a second.
Let's do it.
You right now are on your deathbed and you're about to die. Mm-hmm. And I asked you one question. Mm-hmm. Was your life a success? Yes or no?
I would say yes.
Okay. And now the rest of the book is why, right? And so when I asked that question to myself reading that book, it was no, right? And then the rest of the book was why, right? And so and basically you write out like 4 or 5 things that like would make your life a success, right? If that was the case. And if your life was a success, then you write out those 4 or 5 things why, and then you continue to improve upon it. And I got really obsessed with this like morbidity of death, like mortality and stuff like that. And one of the number one things on there was my inferiority and lying, right? And I hated myself, right? And that I would like try, like one up, right? Kind of a thing, right? Or like try to be better, right? Than I really am, but like all fake. I hated other people doing it too, like, but I did it, right? Mm-hmm. And I got like super obsessed with just like almost a radical honesty to myself and other people and like everything. And I mean, that's why you guys know me how I am right now, actually. Like, why do people like, oh, Tarl's like, mean or whatever? I'm like, no, I'm just saying what I'm thinking. Right?
Yeah, in the masterminds that we've done, people often describe me as mom and you as dad.
Yeah, exactly, right, yeah.
Like they come up, they're like, I'm just really struggling to find a deal. I'm like, you can do it. I love you. And you're like, you're an idiot.
No, I've never said that, right? Like, but I'll be like,
backhand.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I appreciate it. I used to call you a lot to process this, and you would tell me.
This is why we've been good together, is because we are mom and dad.
And exactly. Even sometimes you were like, one of the times that you were completely open and honest with me, you were like, yeah, I could do 60, 100 houses a year. But he's like, I think it's easier to do 15 and it's more fun or something like that. Or 20 when you were kind of, and I always appreciated that, where you were open and honest. And Also, like when we were trying to scale our business, you always remind me, like, is this an ego thing, Cam, or is this a
Yeah. Why do you want to have a social media, Cam?
Yeah,
like,
why are you doing this? Why are you doing that?
Like, sounds like ego, Cam.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Why are you on this podcast, Cam?
Brandon asked me.
Yeah, sure. Out of ego, right? Why'd you really move to Maui, Cam?
Because it's the most beautiful place in the world. I have answers for all of these.
Sure. That's good. You've been practicing these. But to full circle, why I brought that book up and why I did that stuff is like I was that guy that would be like, oh, I'm going to pretend like I'm the best investor here and tell everybody when I wasn't, right? And everybody could, we could smell it, right? My life changed. I had better, meaningful relationships, and I can go up to people like a Cam McElroy because I'm myself, right? It's like getting comfortable with you, even all your scars. Which, if you want to go, I can go on a whole philosophical thing about like the world would be a much better place with more self-confidence, right? Meaning like if people had more self-esteem inside themselves, meaning like they don't, here's the thing, the more self-esteem you have, the more you don't care about what other people think at all. Yeah. And you're also completely okay with them thinking completely opposite things of you and coexisting in the same room with you, right? Unlike a lot of people today having massive conflict because somebody else thinks something different. Because if you think something different than me, that means you think something's wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with me. There's something wrong with you, right? Which, if you have confidence, you don't care. Like you're like, cool, sweet idea. Good for you. Go do whatever you're going to do, right? Yeah. So that builds better relationships with people. Like just be you, right? And people will like you. Believe it or not. Some won't. There's people I don't like. People don't like me, right? That's okay. They can be in the same room. So that's the best way to go approach people. And also my other funny thing that Ken and I joke around with is like, if you're going to come up to us or Brandon or Cameron or whoever, and you say like, hey, I have a question real quick. Don't go then telling us your entire freaking life story and explaining everything and never actually asking a question.
Especially in a crowded room where you can't hear.
And also, please, I've experienced this multiple times. So is Brandon. Maybe not Cameron because he's just now recently famous.
I haven't experienced it.
Yeah. Where you're in the middle of a great conversation with somebody and then you rudely just get bombarded by somebody butting in like, hey, Brandon, hey, what's going on, man? Hey, I got a question for you. Did it? Like don't be that person because we do hate you. Like we really don't.
We talk about you later on.
We talk about you on the podcast right now. Like we do not like that. Be courteous. Come say hi. Come whatever. That's all good. We all love everybody. It's fantastic. But don't be that person. And you're listening right now, and you don't think you're that person. You probably are that person.
All right. I want to throw a bunch of questions at you. First, I want to go through where you're at right now in your business. I've got a thing called the rapid fire round. I'm going to throw a bunch of questions at you. But before we get there, Grace Yarber. Tell me, what do you love about Grace?
That's a great question.
Let's start with what don't you love about? I'm just kidding. What do you love about Grace?
Listen to this. She's life. Like the Grace makes everybody feel better, and she's basically like she takes care of everybody, right? And she's also very much lives in the moment, like in all aspects. Like our son, for instance. I'm the more like calm planning type person, right? So if it was between me and Jax, like my son, like life would be like a lot less chaotic, chill. But then my wife makes it all fun, right? And so like he's outside every day playing in the dirt like crazy. Let's go look for bugs. Let's go do this. Let's go garden. Let's go do this. I have 800 things on my task list that we're going to do all of them right now. It's going to be so fun, right? That's my wife. And Jax is like, wait, he does it too, right? If it was my choice, hey, let's watch a movie. Like can we go do that, right? So she lives in the moment, right? Way better than I do. And I've always wanted to live more in the moment, which is always a strive for me. More grateful, more all that stuff. She takes care of everybody. She loves everybody. Like she's just a great human in that capacity. And you guys know that. Right? Yeah. And she completely complements what I'm not good at and vice versa. Right. And so do I wish at times that she would plan these vacations? Yes. But I also know that's my role in the relationship, like, because I am the planner and the detailed person. Right. But, in reality, like that's where the compliments come in with each other. Right. Yeah. I am not the person that's going to be at the coffee shop and see another parent that has a kid and go up to them and say, let's set up a play date. But Grace will. Right. Yeah. So kind of our thing between the two of us is that like, I might be able to like, I might bring people into our lives somehow, but she's the reason why people stay in our lives. Thing. So like, she's why we have lots of friends, even though I might be somebody like that met somebody or whatever, or talked to them. We do jujitsu. We're co-owners of a jujitsu academy. And if I had it if I was in charge of our social relationship with all the people that I roll with all the time, I would know nothing about them and they've never been to my house and vice versa. But because she's in our lives, we now know their spouses and they come to our house and we go do things together. We have great close friends. So that's a massive compliment that I'm just like, I don't like to bother people. And I feel like I'm going to bother them, which is why I was terrified door knocking, right? Grace doesn't like to bother people otherwise either, but she has a different definition of what bother means, I guess. She'll just go straight up to you and go ask you to go have a play date, and I won't do that. So
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
You are?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I won't bug anybody. I won't ask anybody anything ever.
No.
Ever.
Oh.
Yeah.
Have I ever asked you anything other than being on the podcast?
I mean, like to come over and hang out though.
Okay, Kate. When's the last time I did that? It's been a little while.
It has, man.
You want to come? Yeah, we want to come cold plunge the sauna?
Yes.
Right?
Let's do it. But I mean, Grace is amazing. She's so compassionate.
Yeah, speaking of Grace,
loving.
she's actually at my house right now getting dinner ready. So,
yeah.
Oh, she should. I mean, sorry. No. Well, the other part, I mean, like, she's the most supportive person in my entire life, right? And
I thought I was.
Yeah, besides you. I still have downs. I still have ups, and she's everything. She's there every single time, right? So, one of my conflicts in I put all my love in one thing typically, right? My company's Fixated, right? So, like literally Grace is like the only person I love, right? Like all in everything until we had our son. I'm like, oh, wait, this is different. So kind of aspect. And she's the right person for me to put that heart and soul into for me. And had plenty of practice ones. So, but she's the one.
Very cool. How did becoming a father change you?
How did it change me? That's a good question. So I've heard other people say this too, but for me it was like, I didn't know how much my parents loved me until I had a kid, right? And so that was definitely a perspective, an element of like empathy, right, for sure. I'd say it made me more patient, but I'm already a pretty patient dude. But I think what it did for me is it made me, actually I'll tell you the worst thing it did for me. Yeah, that's probably better. I love extreme activities, right? My favorite two things to do in the world is scuba dive and snowboard, right? Both aren't in Texas, which is where I moved, but whatever. When I lived here in Maui and stuff, Ryan Murdoch and I have the underwater scooters. We'd go miles off the coast. My scooter broke one time off miles of the coast. We're getting dragged off into the current. I'm like, whatever, I'm not freaking out. We figured it out. We got back to shore, right? I thought it was fun. Ryan and I were like laughing about it, and other people with us were freaking out, right? Like, we're like, figure it out. We'll just swim to a big beach or whatever. I don't know. But so I don't really get fazed by a lot of that stuff because I understand what we're doing. Like, so I actually I get it and I understand the inherent risk. So the worst thing about having a kid is that in February, I went heli skiing with our buddy Rich Fecky. It was his 60th birthday, right? And this is the first time I'm going on a trip that's an extreme thing that I'm at home. I'm going to leave my family for 10 days, right, to go all the way out to another country and stuff like that and go do a 4 full day heli skiing trip in Revelstoke, Canada. And I'm like stoked about it, but yet I'm staring at about to leave the house and everything inside me is just like dying and scared and anxiety and anxious. And I'm like, what is wrong with me right now? And I didn't understand. And it wasn't until I got to Rich's house in Malibu where I was like, it's Jax's fault. Like, I literally am leaving my family right now, my 3-year-old, to go to a foreign country to get on a helicopter 10 to 12 times a day to go down the backcountry of a mountain that gets avalanches and all that crazy stuff for fun. And if something happens to me, it's going to completely change this little kid's life, right?
Yeah.
Not financially, but everything else, right? If anything, they might do better financially. And I'm like, I'm scared. Like, I'm scared not of dying. I'm scared of him losing me and not having a dad. And what's that going to do to my wife? And what's that going to do to transform his life? And and then also the missing out, I'm not going to see that stuff. And I'm not going to be all of a sudden. And because I had coped with death before him, right? And that came with living every day to its fullest and making big, huge decisions in my life to build a business. This is where I really dramatically changed my business, was building a business that allowed me to live how I really wanted to live. Not we built our life and then made our business fit that. That was a big pivotal moment in 2017. and we were doing everything with purpose, right? Living every day with seeing my wife every day, working together every day, traveling wherever we want every day, doing everything we wanted and living to its fullest. But then we had this kid, and I never went back to like reevaluate what I'm doing in my life now with the kid. And should I still be doing the things I'm doing? And it messed me up during that entire ski trip.
Really?
Like we had 2 avalanches on that trip too. And I was ski patrol 10 years. And I've been on avalanche recoveries. It's never a rescue, guys, in an avalanche almost ever. It's a recovery. Recovery is you're finding a body, not a living person. And so I know the dangers of all that stuff. And we had 2 of them while we were there. I had nightmares on this trip. And I'm like, and if I didn't have that kid, I would have been totally fine. I would have had a great time. So so it made me like reevaluate what am I, even traveling, because I travel for business at times. And I'm like, wait, what am I doing? Like, should I be doing like, what about them? Right. So that's been made. I don't like that actually, to be honest with you at all. But, so that's a negative to me, but it's also really made me reevaluate that kind of stuff. Long-term thinking. Big time, for sure. So.
Yeah. It sounds like it just made you think. They're going to maybe come out across. It's going to sound kind of bad, but like it made you think of somebody else besides yourself. And what I mean by that in a good way is like all of a sudden you're not living for you, you're living for Jax. And your primary focus is my son might grow up without a dad.
Correct.
And like that, you care about that more than you living.
Yeah,
like I think that's a deep, powerful thing, like a transition in life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Somebody else matters more than you. And most humans, like we go through life, or a lot of humans go through life, we're the number one. We're the most important. But when you have a kid, like, yeah, that shifts.
Oh yeah, you used to skydive. We don't skydive now, right? I want to, but whatever. But we haven't done it yet. But yeah, that was.
Can you, before we get to where you're at in the business now, can you explain that concept of life, designing your life and then your business around it?
Yeah, so that was the big pivotal. So the massive change in my shift in thinking was in 2017, October 2017. I had another quarter life crisis, and we did. So at the end of 2017, I'm the Seattle real estate guy, right? James Daynard is definitely like the guy, like always. I just want to throw that out there. Love that guy to death. He's out of Seattle, but for between him and I, we're like one of the absolutely top house flippers in the area at that time, buying real estate. And I think I owned like 6 rentals at that time, right? Out of almost who knows how many freaking deals at that time period. And so this is 2017, and so I hated my life again. I'm working my butt off. We had more deals, more volume, more revenue in 2017 than we did in 2016. I had more staff, more overhead in 2017 than I did in 2016. So we did, technically on paper, financially, the business did better, but I still made the same amount of money. Me. And talking about selfishness, that's about investing, right? You're supposed to be investing your money and making money, right? I'm like, I just went through so much hell with all this staff. I had and at the end of it, my project manager at that time had stolen from us, and like, just a whole bunch of stuff was collapsing around me. And just because I hated what we were doing and I hated working, and we're just doing it. So I fall back in the business at the end of 2014, and then was like 100 miles an hour until October 2017 without ever looking up, right? We're just doing it every freaking day. My wife and I didn't see each other ever. Like she'd worked a full-time job at the same time too. And cause she didn't, she met me when I had my business, right? She didn't start the business with me. And there's no way in heck she was going to live off of my dime kind of a thing. Like, I'm not gonna live off no man, right? So she had a C-level job, and so she was all into that. And but we both would see each other at 9 p.m. at night, right? And we go to our offices, right? We'd have dinner at 9:30 at night and stuff like that. And so I'm having this kind of whole thing, and I go Thatch Nguyen, which good dude, good buddy. He's out of Seattle.
Been on this show as well.
Yeah, great dude. I'm with him. This is October 2017. And I'm like having my little quarter life crisis thing. And he's just like, most people build their business first, Tarl, and then whatever life they have left over, they have fit into that. He's like, why don't you figure out what you want your life to be like first, and then make your business fit that. And you talked about earlier, right? The book, the right place, right time, right mentor, right person, right everything. Like he could have told me that. I've heard that before, right? But that moment in that place in my life, right, coming from Thatch, who I respect the hell out of, in that exact minute was like a lightning bolt hitting me in my head. I'm like, oh, you can do that? Like, you can actually I can't make my business fit my life. Why don't we go figure that out? So my wife and I then sat down for 3-4 weekends, give or take. We had like the big easel, butcher paper and stuff. And on Saturday, we would pull that thing out and we'd start mapping out our life, right? And we started with our life first. Where do we want to travel? What do we want to do? All that stuff. And then we started mapping out our business, like what should the business look like? What can we do less? And at that time, my business was doing between 17 and 23 active rehab construction projects in any one time in Seattle, Washington, and Portland, Oregon. And you're talking our average rehab, a low rehab would be 60 grand, right? Today, that's like whatever, like, because construction's so expensive, but back then it wasn't. And then our high end would be like 300 grand in rehab, right? Per project. We had 17 and 23 at any one time, never less than 17 ever during that whole time period. And that's at the same time, just to be clear. So we mapped that out and we're like, what do we want our business to be like? So that way we can like fit our personal life. And our personal life was decided that we wanted to travel everywhere and we wanted to be able to work remotely at any time. And more importantly, we wanted to spend every single day together, right? We actually like each other. And so in order to do that, we had to change what I was doing in my business. So that meant going from, 17 to 23 deals at a time, saying like, in order to not have to hire more project managers or any of that kind of stuff, we have to go to 10. So we wrote that number down. No more than 10 deals at a time. What's our biggest headaches in our business is anything that had a $125,000 plus rehab budget. So, okay, max rehab budget, 125, right? And we just started laying our revaluing the buy box. But then we made a really hardcore rule that said, Tarl can never go to the property. And that was like probably the biggest rule that we made. It was like, we now had to rethink the entire business to where if Tarl has to go to the property, then we did something wrong. If Tarl has to go to the property to buy the property, we're not buying the property, right? So then we already had lots of systems, so I didn't have to go to the property. But then it became a rule for lifestyle, which meant that my entire business needs to be able to be ran from my phone and my computer no matter what, right? So that we could travel. And so we map all that out. And then we had an events company at the time. By then we were doing expos and stuff like that. And we had all the largest meetups and everything in Seattle. So we reevaluated what we wanted that, which is like, we want to go raise a certain amount of money for charity every year, right? So we went through all this stuff, aspect, and then we had to go figure out how to do it later, right? So this didn't just magically happen because we wrote it down, although technically you could say it did magically happen because we wrote it down. We then had to go make all the transitions and changes to enact what we want in our life. So we do that for about 3-4 weekends, and then after we had it all laid out, I was like, okay, what's the first thing that we need to do? And Grace was like, I need to quit my job. And so the next day, it was like a Sunday, she quit her job. And so and she put her 2 weeks notice in, and then she's been with me every single day ever since. And then it became like, we made a conscious decision that day to make less money. And what's funny is we made more money, but like but we also made a conscious decision to keep assets too. That's when I became the Burr investor. Started telling everybody I was a recovering house flipper, not because I'm recovering from a fall, like an addict, right? Like so, which is why I actually have a group called Flippers Anonymous for fun. It's about transforming addicts into recovering house flippers. But I started focusing on the Burr. So my biggest ego hit after doing that was getting my 2018 income taxes and seeing, because they always do the side by side, like 2017 compared to 2018, especially when you have an S corp, right? And seeing like dramatic difference between 17 and 2018. I'm like, oh, we lost so much money compared to what we made before. But then I looked at my balance sheet. I was like, oh wait, I had a whole bunch of real estate, right? So we actually made a heck of a lot more money. We just income wise went down. And guess what? My life was way better. Right? Way better and way happier because I never looked at what you did or anybody else. I didn't care. I never cared what other people do in the business. I just never looked up. Does that make sense? I was just going, right? I'm supposed to go buy 50 deals a year. I'm supposed to go make $1 million and one if I made $1 million last year. I'm supposed to go do what else. I'm like, wait, why? I never asked that question. I never asked why. Like, I'm like, what's wrong with $500,000 if I'm also buying properties and keeping assets? And if all we're going to go do is travel and stuff like that, like, why do we need to go do 50 houses a year when we can go do 25, right, or 20, right, to get the same thing? So and we've never stopped that mentality. Like, it's been the biggest thing to make us really, 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 really question saying yes to anything. Right?
I've had that realization a lot lately. Just because money can be made from something doesn't mean money should be made from that thing. You know, like there's a ton of opportunity out there, and that's the problem with shiny object syndrome and being a visionary. Is I see something, I'm like, oh man, like that's such a good idea. There can be money made in that, and then I just start working toward that. To add another business and another business. And so I also want to emphasize this idea of like the beauty of constraints. Like a constraint meaning like, hey, I'm not going to do this. So I always tell the story. I sold all my tools when I moved to Maui because I couldn't stop working on projects. You made a rule that you are not allowed to go to the property. The law of constraints, you could call it, or I just call it like the beauty of constraints because it forces you when you say, this I will not do. This is a line. This is like my guards on the left and right side of the road.
That's it.
Right? Or to use a metaphor of like go-karting, right? If you're go-karting and like you're just all over the place, you're bumper cars at that point. You're not going anywhere, you're just hitting people. But as soon as you put on a left and a right guardrail, now you can go fast. And so the irony is that like, you simplify and you can actually go faster. Like you said, you made more money and you enjoyed life better.
And you go back to like, in real estate, one of the most fundamental things in real estate is to create a buy box, right? Like what will you buy? What's a good deal to you? That same concept is just like, well, what's your buy box in your business, I guess? Like what's your activity in your business? You just do the same thing and saying, I, Tarl, only do these things in my business, which means somebody else has to do the rest, right?
Yeah.
And so and you can set up these, because your buy box should have all the constraints of what you say no to, right? Well, you can do the same thing in your business with how you are in your business. My favorite anomaly in real estate that always like whacks me out a little bit, and Brandon, you and I have talked about this a bit, is when you have like, you take subject A over here who has a successful, thriving widget business with 50, 60 employees, multi-million-dollar revenue, whatever, right? And they have managers and they have COOs and they got mid-level people and they got a whole team and they like run and they own the business. They might even have a CEO that runs it for them. That second that owner buys a house, they then have tools on and they're installing freaking cabinets and they're like, oh my God, there's so much work. And they're like, real estate does that to people. It's weird.
Yeah. It makes them start back over at like the DIY phase.
Yeah.
Which is like how you generally start most businesses.
Which I never did that.
Yeah.
Like,
You start at another level.
Because of who I hung around, right? Like, but like everybody I hung around never ever installed cabinets. Like I remember 9019 Meadow Drive, Southwest, Lakewood, Washington. Leave those people alone. Don't hit them up. But the very first house, I screwed a light bulb in. And I'm not kidding you. Like this is like 2015, 2016, I remember. But 2015. I remember screwing that light bulb in and completely feeling like an abject failure.
That was the first house you ever worked on.
I didn't work on it. I screwed a light bulb on. Like so I went to Home Depot and bought light bulbs and then swept some stuff in the basement.
And you were like,
when I was sweeping, I was like, where did I go wrong? And I'm literally thinking like I am a failure as an investor. Like, and I'm not saying that as a joke. I really felt that way because everybody I know that was successful, they didn't do that shit. Like, and
I do.
And I know, right? I still remember screwing that light bulb in and dying inside. Like,
well, yeah, because it proved that some system was broken.
Yeah.
And so sometimes when those things happen, whenever I'm doing a project that I'm like, I shouldn't be doing this, like, yeah, I'm irritated, but then I'm also like, what system broke? Like if I'm working in my pool. So I actually have a guy, like I told you this yesterday, but I have a guy that comes every day to my house or 5 days a week for an hour and just cleans the pool, leaf blows, and like just generally maintains the property because I have a ton of fruit trees and all that. And that was after like me doing that work for an hour a day for, or not doing it and then the yard looking like crap. And then Heather complaining like, why does the yard look like crap? I'm like, I just didn't have time to get out there today. And finally I'm like, wait, that's just a broken system. That's all it is. It's a broken system. So now,
and the constraints let you do more. Like for me at least, because I've set a constraint like I cannot work past a certain amount of time. And that's allowed me to do more versus, hey, I can just do it anytime today. And I'm like, well, I'm going to do it later. I'm going to do it later. I'm going to do it later. And eventually I watch Netflix and go to bed.
Yeah, it helps you go faster.
Yeah, and now I'm going to say on the other side of it, where the business that we didn't do that with was our events company, right? Because I liked it, right?
Yeah.
So
those are your tools, man.
Yeah, that's how I had the tools. I was DIYing the hell out of the events company, but like so I'm a hypocrite, right? So the concept I joke is like, hey, if you want to get really good at real estate, hate it, right? Because then you'll get everybody else to do it. So that's all I did was like, I don't like doing that stuff, so I'll get somebody else to do it. Or I hated doing the process over and over again, so we figured out a process to make it happen and then get somebody else to do it, right? Our events company, I've spent the last 2 years undoing all the damage of me doing everything for years because I liked it, right? Yeah. So, that's, I'm not always, we all have our mistakes, right? So,
well, let's go to the rapid fire round. I heard the other day that women can't do No. Yeah, you can't do it either.
Yeah.
I thought me and my mom said women can't make gun sounds. I thought that was funny because as little boys, we were
you practice it.
Yeah, you practice gun sounds, but no little girl practices gun sounds. But
That's so sexist.
Yeah, I'm really good at it.
Yeah, you'll get canceled.
Yeah, this is the rapid fire round, which we're gonna get canceled over. All right, bunch of random questions here. Cam, would you like to take the first one, being that you're the deal flow guy?
Yes. How do you find deals today?
Man, limitless expert. That's actually not true at all. So actually, I outsource it. So currently right now we're buying as many single family properties as we can in 2 specific markets, and not Seattle, not Washington.
What are those markets?
Yeah, you can
tell us.
I don't really want to tell you guys one of them, but I'm already getting in trouble for telling people. I'm not going to pull a Brandon Turner and get everybody in a mobile home park. But I'll
say
this
a lot of credit for this being the massive show.
Yeah. Well,
There's millions of downloads.
Billions.
So the big thing, and right now I'm actually looking at other markets, but it's all about supply constraint, right? Mm-hmm. So what market has supply constraint with high demand due to jobs, right? Not because, I didn't invest in Boise, Idaho back in 2020, 21, because even though massive supply constraint and massive demand, no job supported any of the pricing. So I'm like, this is going to fall out. And it did, right? Because everybody from California to Seattle was moving there, so it drove up prices. So the markets I'm looking at are essentially like high job growth, high demand, supply constraint. And the supply constraint has more to do with not because of a lack of building, but an inability to build, right? So what areas have older homes that, like Seattle is that. That's why Seattle blew up, was because if you ever Google Seattle, it's surrounded by water. It's all old houses, right? You have to tear something down to build something new. So what other markets are like, that's what I'm more focused on, that also have the job growth to push it. So that said, how do I do acquisitions? Well, I partner somebody that does acquisitions. Yeah. So basically, our partner Mission Krell in it. So as part of our business now, I've always done that. So I had Nate at one point, or whatever. So I've always had somebody else on the team focused on the acquisitions, but almost exclusively it's always been networking with wholesalers, networking with local investors, networking with realtors. So when you're the wholesaler, you got to go direct to seller, right? When you're the buyer, you go direct to wholesaler and make them come direct to seller, right? So that's been our way for a long time. I'm a big believer that if you buy real estate and you go direct to seller, that needs to be separate businesses, because they are completely different businesses. Yeah. Acquisitions business, which is a sales marketing business, versus real estate investing, which is buying the real estate. So
we have home buyers and flips in our Rebel City umbrella. Do that. Did you ever do direct to seller, or have you always?
Yeah, we've done that. Yeah. Well, that's how I got started, right? But we would do it very little of it. But most of the direct to seller would be, and you're talking about, I haven't done direct seller since I was telling my buddy how to do it in 2014. But that's why I hired somebody else to go door knock and stuff like that. So Nate on his free time would go door knock, driving for dollars and things like that.
Would it be fair to say that one of the reasons you started a meetup in Seattle was to get people to JV and bring you deals? So
I would say that an absolute huge reason why we did meetups in Seattle was to get more wholesalers to bring us deals. Yeah. And become now that backfired on us later when we got really successful, because then they assumed we already had all the deals.
So they wouldn't bring them to you, they bring them to somebody else.
I might have 250 people in a room for our monthly meetup in Bellevue, which was just one of them. And here I am on stage, Mr. Scary Tarl, right, in 2019, blowing and going, creating. I had the 2019 PNW Big Badass Real Estate World Expo, which by then is the largest conference in pretty much definitely the Pacific Northwest, if not close to the West Coast. And I'm at the meetup, right, and now you got that 20-year-old Tarl on stage, right, in the crowd, who then talks to the investor next to him to go sell the deals. Coming up to us, right? So I'd have Nate work it and other people, but I had a lot of other people doing deals, right, in my events towards the end, because they started assuming, and we'd find out, we're like, oh, we just assumed you already had all the deals you needed, right? So we had to get really focused on that. So if I had to do it over again, I'd keep it nowhere near as big as we did it, with a heck of a lot more focus on making sure we're milking and getting the deals out of it.
We're not great at rapid fire rounds here, but it's okay.
Or I'm not great at answering them rapidly, right? Because you did ask that question really fast.
I did. How would you describe your leadership style? Go.
Wait, what?
How would you describe your leadership style?
Oh, man. Today versus the past.
Sure. Let's go today.
The past, abdication.
Okay. It's a great style. Works great.
You're amazing. You're great. I trust you. Good luck.
Let's ignore you.
What do you mean it's broken? All of a sudden, right? The abdicate, not delegate, right? That means ignoring the person completely unless they break it, right? That was in the past. I learned a lot of my leadership actually when I was in Primerica, which was just absolute treat them like family, and spill blood with them, eat bread, with them or whatever, like all that stuff. Just like be involved in their lives, right, and make them your friend. And there's a whole concept in corporate America about like you can't be friends with who you're working with because you might have to fire them. I don't. You get the most out of people because you are open and honest and loving on them, and vice versa. It just hurts a ton when they let you down.
Yeah.
Right. And so I treat my people and my staff just the same way that as I treat like my family and everybody else. So I ignore them. No, I'm joking. Joking. You've been around my team and we're all super close, right?
So it's wild how much your employees like you.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Because I can't hate you.
Yeah. And sometimes hate me. That's true, right?
But
there's moments just like they hate their dad, right? Or opposite, right? But especially Nate. I've never been the dad Nate wanted, but I've been the dad he's needed, right? Deserved.
All right. Let's move from the rapid fire round. We got 2 questions. We're going to move over to a segment of the show which we lovingly call our 3-2-1 pivot. If you have a pivot, your life is going one direction, boom, gets knocked off course a little bit in a positive way. So this is called 3-2-1 because I got 3 books to ask you about, 2 people who have changed the direction of your life, and 1 quote. Let's start with the books. You've already mentioned some on the show. Maybe you'll say them again. What are 3 books that have changed your life?
Or I said Rich Poor Dad, but I'll say just to keep it business specific, there's 3 books I always recommend that changed my entire way I think about how I run the businesses. The One Thing by Gary Keller. It got me focused on like, wait, my superpower is networking. That's what I got to go do. That's when the needle moves, is when I could go out there and network. I'm not even an extrovert. I'm a professional extrovert, natural introvert. The other one is The One Thing. Sorry, I already said that. The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss.
Love it.
Not because of the vacation portion of it, but taught me how to think differently, to condense time frames and look at things creatively to get things done in a sense, and then outsource the hell out of it. And then the third one is The Checklist Manifesto by Atul Gawande, and which is a great book. So that teaches you how to really simplify the process. So those 3 books is what I recommend on a business level. There's plenty of other books I recommend on a personal development level. But
love that. 2 pivot people. Who are 2 people?
2 pivot people.
2 pivot people.
In pivotal moments in my life. 2 pivot people. Do I have to know them?
No.
So
were you gonna say yes?
You
were gonna say
no. I was gonna say no. You don't have to know.
Yes.
I would absolutely say Ken McElroy for sure, and I do personally know him, and he is a business partner. Bragging about that, yes. And so, absolutely, Ken McElroy has changed my life and protected my business at times by, like, when right before the rates changed, he gave me a phone call and said, "Where you at? What's going on with your business? Get out of your shit." Like, and it saved me a lot of money. And just being around that guy has changed my life. The other person, believe it or not, that I would say is absolutely pivotal, besides, of course, my wife, and fully, I'd say Marshall Silver. And just because him being on that stage, like, completely, like, changed my entire trajectory of my entire life, right? Is that moment, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm friends with him, and we're, like, close with him and his wife and his kids and everything, and, like, we consider them like family, right?
Yeah, I'd like to get him on the podcast. We've been talking about it for like a year. But
he would totally.
Yeah, I know he'll do it.
Yeah,
he's a good dude. He's a good dude.
Yeah, he'll sell you everything. Watch out, guys. Like, he's really good at sales. Like, really, and he can't turn it off. It's not his fault. Like, he can't turn it off. But he's like very charismatic, like, extremely.
All right, 1 pivot quote. A quote that's changed your life.
Oh, my favorite quote. My life has been full of terrible misfortunes, most of which have never happened.
Who said that?
So people credit Mark Twain, but he didn't say it. You can Google it. It's some French philosopher, dude.
But we don't like the French, so we're going to say Mark.
Yeah,
Twain.
I mean,
he's
like,
American.
He's very French.
American.
So, but yeah, my life has been full of terrible misfortunes, most of which have never happened.
Perfect. Well, next segment: past, present, future. We're going to look at the past, present, and future. So, what advice would you give to 20-year-old Tarl when you're out there door knocking?
Oh man, don't be a bitch.
Don't cry to your girlfriend.
Don't cry.
Yeah, like, a lot of it is, like, what's that phrase? Like, going through hell, just keep on going, right? That country music song.
I hate that
You're
song.
going there.
I love country, and I hate that song. Number 1, least.
The pain doesn't get easier. And the task still needs to get done. So just go do it. And it's going to get worse, not better. by kicking the can down the road and just thinking about the work day and day is harder than just doing the work.
Yeah.
And I spent a lot of my young life been full, terrible misfortune, most never happened kind of a thing where I'm like in my head about and putting off things and not doing it because it's more terrifying. So it's in my head versus just it's nowhere near as bad as if you just go do it.
Yeah.
And don't ignore your gut.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't ignore your gut. My logic brain has ignored my gut more than once and regretted it, and then vice versa, and it's been amazing. So it's like, just lean into it.
I don't have any tattoos, but if I was going to get a tattoo, it'd be of a buffalo.
Okay.
Because when a storm is coming, they turn around and run right to it because they know that they're going to get through it faster, running through the storm than running away from it, which is similar to that. Yeah. I'm going to get a big old buffalo on my back.
They also got massacred for dozens of years until they were almost driven into extinction.
I know. Can you believe that? That we would do such a thing?
I don't know. Crazy.
American settlers.
Americans. All right. The better life, the present question. What is something you've done in the last year that's improved your life? It could be a habit, an action, a new routine, a purchase. Something you've done in the last 12 months that's given you a better life.
I wouldn't say that I stopped drinking, but like dramatically stopped drinking. Like dramatically. That's been a huge improvement in my life. And jiu-jitsu, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I do it all
blue
the time.
belt now?
Blue belt, right?
It's not about me. This show's not about me. It's not a competition.
Yeah.
Let's just keep going to Tarl.
Who would win in a fight right
I'd
now?
also say like
I'd win every time. It's the size and the good looks. We'll find out tomorrow night.
I'd say that.
Cool.
I'm excited for this question. What do you want Jax to say about you when you're gone?
Why do I gotta be gone?
Because it's more meaningful. It's
Just
more
like
meaningful.
right now, because it'd be
not right now.
Because it'd be like an incoherent sentence.
Let's say you're almost 40, so let's say 40 years down the road.
You're old.
You don't got a lot left, but you die, and he's speaking at your funeral about his dad. What do you want him to say?
I've never thought about that. I think a lot of it just has to do with he was himself. He allowed people to be themselves. He allowed him, being Jax, to be himself. I was always there, right, for sure, and always supportive. Right, pushed him. The biggest thing, all I ever wanted Jax, for him, is he needs to be able to take a joke.
Mm-hmm.
That comes back with self-confidence. There's too many people that can't take a joke. So and that's really my level of success with him, is that if he's older and he can just take a joke and give a joke and not take himself too seriously at all. And I want him to be able to say that's all. That's it. So.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, let's wrap things up. 3 final questions. First one, I'm changing this up a little bit. For the first one,
a lot of 3 questions.
I always love this question, and I never know which to put it in, so I'm going to put it in here. How does one obtain a better life? This is the Better Life podcast. How does one obtain a better life, in your opinion?
Choice. Most of us live in our heads, and most of us have a way better life than we think we do. And so I think perspective is massively important. And so having I read a book called by Neil Donald Walsh. Anyways, it was about God. Anyways, and I remember he had a phrase like, a candle doesn't know it's a candle when it's against the sun, kind of a thing, right? So it has to go into darkness to know that it's light, right? So having that perspective as well, and amazing book with Man's Search for Meaning. Right, by Viktor Frankl. He says that too. No matter what was going on with him in the internment camp, you couldn't change what he was thinking. Right, so it is in your head. No matter how bad it gets, there's always another perspective. Could be worse. And so, I guess gratitude and appreciation for where you are right now and what you do control thoughts, right, and what you do about it. And there's always something you can do about it. And there's people no, there's a gun in my head, I can't do anything. There's still something you can do. It might not be the choices you want.
Yeah.
Right. Also, don't should all over yourself is the other thing. I should do this, should do that, shoulda. That's the worst thing that you can do.
Love that.
Don't say they should either.
Yeah. Love it. What is coming up soon that you're excited about?
Oh my God, the Limitless Expo. Go to limitlessexpo.com. Use Better Life for your promo code and go see Brandon be a keynote on one of the stages.
If you had to pick one keynote, who would it be, though?
RFK. So we
Dang,
yeah.
You're comparing. Oh,
yeah, well,
can't compete
which
against
we
that.
have.
It's not a competition. Whatever.
You have a better voice.
I do have a better voice.
Way better. Right. But
RFK.
yeah,
That's a big deal. That's awesome.
No, I'm very much looking forward to that. I'm also looking forward to be done with it too. But like but that has more to do with because like this is the flagship of everything we do all year is this event, and so it takes a massive amount of my like brain power, like and so forth. So it's always kind of nice when it's done, but that's also bittersweet at the same time. So
that's awesome.
All right, last question: where can people find out more about you, connect with you?
TarlYarber.com. Man, I wish I had that back when I was doing bigger pocket stuff.
Much easier.
It went way easier. Plus, also, like, I would have actually.
How do you spell all that?
So Tarl, like Carl with a T. Sometimes I feel bad for Carls that get confused with Tarl. Anyways, but Tarl Yarber, YARB as in boy, ER.com. I give a lot of free stuff away. So newsletter, sign up, everything. But you get my profit and loss spreadsheets. You can get I got videos on how we run all of our stuff virtually. Like all that stuff, it's all free. Everything's online. And so one day I will have a YouTube channel again. I have a massive amount of YouTube. I have 86 videos on Bigger Pockets that basically shown everything we've ever done on there. We'll start doing that again on my own personal YouTube channel eventually. Go to my Instagram if you want to watch satire videos more than instructional videos. We have a whole bunch that's going to come out soon. But yeah, TarlYarber.com is the best place to actually like get involved with what we're doing.
All right. Tarl Yarber, let's go eat some breakfast for dinner. Thanks for joining us.
Cool. Thanks.
Yay.